during the COVID-19 pandemic. Speaking at the 104th Annual Ordinary General Meeting in Pretoria, Kganyago outlined a tough road ahead. He says inflation remains stubbornly high, with public debt levels globally at record levels. He says July 22nd was recorded as the hottest day on Earth, indicating climate change challenges.
There is little fiscal or monetary policy space available to deal with the risks that could emerge to financial stability, renewed inflation pressures, or even the growing challenge of climate change. Inflation remains a major policy concern for central banks globally.
And international news, the death toll in the devastating landslides in the Indian state of Kerala has risen to 50. Heavy rain in the forested hills of the Wayanad district turned rivers into muddy torrents, sweeping away trees and vehicles and submerging buildings. Soldiers have been deployed to help with rescue efforts, which have been complicated by the destruction of bridges. A minister in Kerala state, M.B. Rajesh, had this update.
We fear that the gravity of this tragedy is much more than these numbers. Rescue operations are being carried out on a war footing. Police, NDRF, Fire Force and various agencies are actively involved in rescue operations.
The top story at 3 o'clock, the principal of Pretoria Girls High has been suspended for 3 months. For SAFM News, Kemudupi Makhalemele.
A very good afternoon to you in your SFM Sports headlines. It's Olympic action. Our very own Paige Bardnos has qualified for the semi-finals, and that's in rowing in the women's single sculls. And we also have a rugby update for you. The Springbok newcomer Ruan Nokia set to shine in the rugby championships. All the details just around 3:30.
SAFM 104 to 107 nationwide. Leading the conversation. SAFM has signed a code of conduct that is enforced by the Broadcasting Complaints Commission of South Africa. Under the code, we are committed to giving news that is accurate, comment that is fair, and programming that is not harmful, does not amount to hate speech, or contain violence or explicit sex. If you think we are not living up to that code, then you can inform the Broadcasting Complaints Commission of South Africa. Direct any complaints in writing to the Broadcasting Complaints Commission of South Africa. PO Box 142365. Craig Hall 2024. Fax to 011-326-3198 or an email to bccsa@nabsa.co.za. For more information, please visit www.bccsa.co.za. The Market Update, Monday to Thursday, 6 to 7 p.m.
Want to stay ahead of the financial game? Join us tonight from 6 to 7 p.m. for an insightful journey through the day's market developments, financial updates, and investment news. Tune in for your daily dose of financial intelligence as we navigate the twists and turns of the financial landscape with expert insights. Only on the SAFM Market Update.
SAFM Market Update with Jimmy Muyaha. The National Pulse with Ashraf Garda on SAFM. You're listening to the National Pulse, weekdays 3 to 6 p.m.
A good afternoon, a warm welcome to you. Lots to consider, lots to talk about, lots to debate. And as always, what for you on this day are the issues that moves the National Pulse. So you can comment as always, 086 000 2032. You can WhatsApp in text or voice note form 0614 104 107. And you can also post on social media. What for you are the biggest issues that move you? We'll cover a range of issues, including the update on the Pretoria school disciplinary hearing that's taken place around the issues of racism. But that's not all. There's just so many, including that teacher in KZN, sadly, who was killed yesterday. Let's, however, start with the That's My Point feature. So we know that Tatiana Smith is a gold medal winner, Olympic gold medal winner now in 2020 and now in 2024. But do you know what happened to her in 2016? Well, she was 19, right? and she attempted to qualify for the Olympic Games in Rio. She did not qualify, that is. In fact, she missed out on qualification by, listen to this one, 1/100th of a second. 1/100th of a second. At that time, she said, that's it. And she doubted whether she would continue performing professionally because it takes so much out of you, right? And I'm quoting her. She said, it sucked, but I knew everything happens for a reason. I wasn't ready at that time. My fall was quite big, and I had to try and fall in love with the sport again. I bring that up today because Tatiana Smith has gone through periods of exclusion and then come back from doubt and almost giving up to being this, well, Olympic champion. It's like a world champion, isn't it? Best in class, right? And I'm thinking it must have happened to you and me as well. I mean, I used to have a business which, made money and then lost money. Then we had to shut it down a long, long time ago. And I can tell you now, if that didn't happen with hindsight, the doors to broadcasting would have never opened up for me. So have you got a similar story? I'm thinking there must be. We all have stories of massive setbacks in our lives at the time, and you wonder what's going to happen next. And then upon reflection, you realize it's opened up a whole new vista for you, a new opportunity for you to be bigger, better, stronger, and a real champion in what you really want to do, or what is even more impactful. So that's my point. Well, what's yours?
X at SFM Radio and at Ashraf Garda.
And I'd love you to comment on that. I mean, I'm sure you have your own examples of adversity and whatever they may be, and how you've come back, or other people. It may not be you, but you is first prize. But if it's not you, then, others who've had experiences where you want to give up in a certain activity. It could be work, business, whatever, right? And you're like, that's it. And then something happens and you come back, and you come back so much stronger. So I'd like to get the human story out of it. Share it with me. 0614 104 107 on WhatsApp. And then to call in 086 000 2032. 086 000 2032. And as always, where are you listening from? Tell me where you are, in which dorpie, in which town, in which city, in which province, in which part of the world are you listening to the National Pulse from? You can tell me. And as always, the double up is to not just tell me, but also to send us a picture of you locked into the SFM dial, wherever you may be in the country and around the world. Don't forget your name. I certainly want to know that, right? Okay, first things first then. We're going to talk about the issue that's happened around a teacher losing her life, and there's big questions around that right after this.
You're listening to the National Pulse on SAFM.
Right, you may have heard about a story that is really concerning. A teacher in a school in KZN going about her normal duties, and two gunmen walk in, shoot her, and walk out. End of discussion. That's it. But is that really it? I mean, there's a story. A life has been lost. Families are affected by it. And there's so much other trauma beyond that. Why does it seem to be happening so often? What do we do next around this issue? Nomusa Tembi is with me, the Satu Media Officer. Appreciate your time. Thanks for joining us on the National Pulse. Hi.
Good afternoon, Ashraf. Good afternoon to your listeners.
Thank you. So first things first, I mean, just fill in the details very briefly in terms of what actually happened yesterday.
This incident took place at Pigiswayo Primary School in Lindelani in Tozuma, outside of Durban, under the Pinetown district. Apparently, the teacher is a grade R teacher. He's our member. She was teaching, and she was inside a classroom when two gunmen stormed into the class and and started shooting. They shot at her, and she died instantly. And the attackers left. They ran away, and leaving small children traumatized and helpless, and and everyone, the teachers, the learners, and everyone, traumatized. We are very much concerned about this. It happened in broad daylight, in the morning. People just presently walked in. It just says that our schools are not safe. People do not respect schools. They can just walk in and do whatever and simply walk out.
Well, I mean, first of all, condolences to the family of the teacher, and also to the learners who were there, the children who obviously witnessed what had happened. I mean, it's just a horrific story, right? Your point about our schools are not safe, it gets me to ask you two questions. One is we clearly have a huge moral issue around, people who think, for whatever reason they may have had, because this clearly doesn't look like it's a robbery. It's a getting into the classroom, shoot, and walk straight out, right? So whatever the reasons may be, to think that people can consider taking a life is okay, there's something really wrong with that, isn't it?
Yes, there's something really wrong with that. Yes, a life. People do not respect life at all, and I think there's also this thing that whatever they do, there are no repercussions. If there were repercussions, fewer people would engage in such acts. So law enforcement is one issue that really needs to be looked at.
Well, just so many of us talk about that. I think you're absolutely right that the risk factor, is loaded in the favor of the perpetrators. That means there's a better chance they won't get convicted than they will. And that is a huge problem. But that's one part of it. The other part that you spoke about is the issue of security. So considering that we now know that so many public spaces in South Africa are not safe, right? How is it possible that someone can simply walk into a grade R class and cannot be apprehended before they get there?
We have been saying for the longest of time that schools need to be safe. Schools need proper security personnel. They need proper fencing and proper apparatus to make sure that they are safe. But this is inconsistent. Some schools do have security guards, some do not. And even those that have security guards, they don't have enough. You'll find that there'll just be one man who's not properly trained to deal with security. Perhaps it's just a neighborhood person who is unemployed and is just given that job to look after the school, which we feel it doesn't serve a purpose. We have been calling for properly trained security personnel who would also have the gadgets to make sure that the schools are safe. But the department hasn't, provided what we've been asking for.
And the call will be to the department. Is that what you're saying?
Yes, the call would be to the department, but we also are aware that it cannot lie on the department alone. Also, the Department of Police, they also need to take part. We are aware that schools have got relationships. They do build relationships with local police stations, and there are programs like Adopt a Cop programs where you'll find that there will be a cop for a school, but you find that those things, there's never a cop at the school all the time, and then those people will come in after the incident.
So let's look at some of the issues to consider here in terms of what happened. First of all, the teacher's gone. That's the one reality, right? Reaction from her family, and then what about the learners, the grade R learners who were present? What's happened to them?
They are devastated, but I'd like to commend the Department of Basic Education in the province of KwaZulu-Natal. They quickly brought in social services to provide psychosocial support to the learners and to the school yesterday after the incident. Before by midday, they were there sitting with the learners, sitting with the teachers, counseling them. But with these things, they have a long-term effect. It was well and good for them to have come immediately after the incident, but we'll want to see them being consistent, coming more, regularly, because the trauma of seeing someone shot, of hearing the gunshots, it takes a long time before you can deal and come to terms with it. So we'd like to see them not just doing it on that day, but to come more often. But we thank them for coming sooner yesterday.
I'm looking at your, the SADTU KZN statement and saying that this issue around safety was put on the agenda at the Department of Education agenda, working together with the Department of Community Safety and the liaison in the province, and they were supposed to have acted on it with speed, at the speed required. Until this time, regardless of SADTU's numerous calls, this is clearly not happening. I'm just paraphrasing there, right? So what is it going to take to happen? I mean, what sort of communication are you having between yourself and the department, or safety and security, or community liaison? I mean, I can throw in a whole range of things. All I'm saying is, what can be done to act with haste to ensure that school and every other school is safe?
That stems from the march that we held last year, where we marched to the department, and at the top of our demands was safety and security in our schools, that we need properly trained security personnel, we need properly fenced schools with proper cameras, proper gadget that can detect people bringing in guns to schools and on that, or weapons to schools. But up until now, we have not seen the department bringing those things in our schools to make them safer.
Okay, just last thing, very quickly, what's the one thing you want to see happen next, like ASAP?
Yes, we do want the authorities to really be at the forefront, but we are also calling on every stakeholder in education to play a role in this. That is why, out of these issues of security in our schools, we came up with a campaign which we call I'm a School Fan campaign, where we're calling more especially communities to be fans of their schools, to be there to support their schools. Okay. Because those who walked into the school, they know who came
that's
to
where
the
we,
school.
That's where we leave it. That's where we're going to leave it now. Namusa Tlembi, the SADTU media officer, a huge concern. Safety in the classroom is just not like it should be.
From 1936 to the future, from Ekaya, Ekasi, to Jozi and Urkan to the world, from dance and poetry to stages filled with our hopes and dreams, from SABC radio stations to cross-border triumphs, from drama, comedy and heart-pounding sport to raise our flag, from culture and spirit to the streets where talent is grown, from generation to generations and the shows that kept us entertained. So, what are you waiting for? Kumbule Kaya. SABC has always been home to our joy, stories, and Msanti's magic. Come home to SABC Plus, still home to the best of who we are.
And we would buy 500 cars, and we would buy 500 more. So sell your car for the best price, and we won't think about it twice. We buy cars, we buy cars. Da-da-dun-da-da-dun-da-da-dun-da-da-da-da. We buy cars, we buy cars.
We Buy Cars, the easiest way to sell your car by far.
Futafri is more than just football. It's a celebration of passion, community, and the magic of Africa's beautiful game. Futafri goes beyond the final score. Uncover the heart of the game with special profile segments, taking you on a captivating journey across the continent. Experience the fabric of African football. Foot Freak every Saturday at 1:30 p.m. on SABC1 and Mondays at 6:30 p.m. on SABC Sport on TTT Channel 4. Also available on SABC Plus and SABCSport.com. Proudly brought to you by SABC Sport.
For the love of the game.
Ashraf Garda on SAFM.
Right, let's get to our Global Watch feature. I know people are commenting on some of the issues we brought up. One, the issue of Tatiana Smith with her magnificent comeback in her life, not just last night, after missing the Rio Olympic Games by 100th of a second. I mean, did not qualify to the Games itself, to now being an Olympic champion in 2 successive Olympic Games, right? So we'll talk about that, as well as the issues around safety and security in our schools, as well as the issue around Pretoria High. There's a disciplinary action that's taken place there. We'll cover those issues and more. Let's, however, talk about the Global Watch feature we do every day around this time. So after Venezuela's President Nicolas Maduro was declared the winner of the presidential vote on Sunday, thousands of Venezuelans took to the streets to protest the election outcome. While the country's main opposition claimed they've gathered enough evidence that proves the Edmundo Gonzalez himself won Sunday's election. As it stands now, we have one winner, but there are challenges. So, what is the legitimacy around this election? What happens next? Carlos Feo is the Republic of Venezuela's ambassador designate to South Africa. Ambassador Feo, appreciate your time. Thanks for joining us on the National Pulse.
Yes, good afternoon. Thank you very much for allowing me to share with the South African public what is happening today in Venezuela.
Okay, so what is happening?
As you well know, last Sunday the presidential elections were held in Venezuela. The same day, same Sunday at midnight, the National Electoral Council announced its first bulletin with 80% of the votes scrutinized. And they announced the victory of President Nicolás Maduro with the 51% of the votes. The opposition immediately didn't recognize these results and called his followers to the streets. From then to now, more than 100 of violent acts has been reported. And as you well said also, they claim that they have proof that they have the proof that allow them to set that their candidate was the winner, but they haven't shown the proofs. They haven't never shown the proofs. And it's important you to know that it's not the first time that happened. On the last elections, they happened the same things. The opposition claims also a fraud, but they never show the proof. It's also important to know that the National Electoral Commission is the one who organized the elections in Venezuela, and the electoral system in Venezuela is one of the stronger electoral system in the world, said not by the Venezuelan government, but by international organizations such as Center Carter, that is specialized in elections. So it's a system very strong. It's not possible to fraud the elections with this system we have there.
Okay, if that's what the case, why then first of all, opposition parties are saying that the election is flawed. That's one. There are many countries, neighboring countries in South America, saying the same thing. Then you also have the USA also suggesting the same thing, and there could be a few others too. There appears to be a widespread consensus that something went wrong in the election, where the polls suggested that that Nicolas Maduro would lose the election handsomely. That clearly has not happened. So what do you make of that?
The polls didn't suggest that. Some polls did. The polls that control the opposition. But many polls have been published declaring the opposite. That means the only way to know who is going to be the winner is the elections. It's not the polls.
Okay.
And it's important you to say that because is because of one of the polls that stated that the opposition candidate Edmundo González has 70%, that mainly party of the opposition has said so. But the polls didn't determine the elections.
All right, I hear that. I also know there's been opposition to what you've just said. Let that play its course. In the meantime, there are people out in the streets, right? And I understand there's been acts of violence, there's been protests, right? And I also understand the protests are not just coming from the opposition political parties, but citizens who are not linked to any one party. I mean, does that not concern you?
Sorry. When I meant poll, I meant surveys. That means it's a different act from elections.
No, I hear that, right? What I'm saying to you now, in the streets of Venezuela right now, there is opposition in the streets to the results. Are they coming not just from political parties, but they're also coming from citizens who do not belong to parties, who are deeply upset about the outcome of the election?
Normally, they come from the opposition party. The one who called the people at the streets is the main opposition candidate, the one who did not recognize the results. It's important to say also that others, opposition candidates also, because there were 10 candidates at this election, other candidates has recognized the results.
Okay. What do you think? Lastly, what's going to happen next?
Well, violence is already on the street. So it's very worried because it's the same script we had, for example, at 2017 or 2014, where hundreds of people were died on the streets. But it's important to say also that violent acts is especially aimed to destabilize a country.
Okay. Let's leave it at that.
And as happened in 2017, mostly of the people that was killed belongs to the party of President Maduro.
Okay, got that. Carlos Feo, the Republic of Venezuela's ambassador designate to South Africa. Appreciate your time here on the National Pulse. Let's get the news headlines now. It's 3:30. Here's Madupi.
Rafa, good afternoon. In your headlines, the principal of Pretoria Girls High has been suspended for 3 months. This follows the suspension of 12 learners last week implicated in a controversy involving racial comments. Charges against whistleblower Patricia Morgan Mashale and her husband George Mashale have been dismissed in the Bloemfontein Magistrates Court. And the foreign policy advisor to former Venezuelan President Hugo Chavez says there are concerns over the country's electoral process following the re-election of Nicolas Maduro. I'll be back with a full news update at 4.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Good afternoon. Starting off in Gauteng, the M1 southbound in central Johannesburg is queuing towards Crown Interchange. The R59 northbound in Alberton has a crash reported on the link to the N12 east at Reading Interchange. Main Reef Road westbound in Crown has a crash reported at Church Street, and Olifantsfontein Road eastbound in Midrand has delays towards Lever Road. In KZN, the M13 eastbound has roadworks reported with traffic restrictions at the N3 Paradise Valley Interchange. The M4 has roadworks with traffic restrictions at Tongaat Beach, so you're asked to expect delays. The N2 southbound is queuing towards Spaghetti Junction, and Umgeni Road is slow moving through Springfield Park. In Cape Town, Batencross Street outbound is slow moving towards the elevated freeway. Victoria Road outbound slow moving through Woodstock. Strand Road eastbound in Stickland is slow moving towards the R300 highway, and Brighton Road in Kraaifontein is slow moving at the N1 highway. With your traffic update, I'm Irma G.
This is SAFM Sport with Zai Khan.
Right, Zai, there are lots to talk. I heard you gloating this morning about an Olympic medal. What's the big story now?
Okay, so we have a lot of South Africans in action today. The men's individual triathlon, Ashraf, featuring our very own Henry Skuman and James Riddle, has been postponed. And you know why? That's due to the pollution in the River Seine. We have rowing. Paige Badenhorst finishing fourth in the women's singles sculls quarterfinal, securing a spot in the semi-final. And we also had a tough match earlier with the SA men's hockey team. They suffered a 1-5 defeat against Germany. And over in the pool, Matthew Sates finished sixth in the men's 200-meter butterfly heat, unfortunately failing to qualify for the next round. Right now, we are keeping an eye out for Vincent Legoni. He's competing in the BMX freestyle. We'll update you on the results. Later at 4:30, the SA women's sevens rugby team will play Fiji in the 11th for a 12th place playoff. And finally, we're going to keep an eye as well later on for Sarah Ann Baum. That's in the women's surfing playoffs around 24 minutes past 9. On to rugby now. The Springbok newcomer Ruan Nokia is thrilled about his opportunity to wear the number 5 jersey again with Franco Mostert out due to injury. Nokia, who captains the Bulls, is a top contender for the position in the upcoming Rugby Championship matches against the Wallabies in Australia, having last played for the Boks in 2022. Now, the Sharks have reportedly hashed out a deal to boost their options in the front row with a move for veteran campaigner Ruan Dreyer from the Lions. According to reports, the 7-test Springbok tight head has agreed to a 2-year contract with the 23-24 Challenge Cup champions. It is understood that the 33-year-old Dreyer is in advanced talks about securing an early release from his current deal with the Pride. Soccer news. Orlando Pirates defender Thabiso Monyane has spoken about the arrival of the club's latest signing in the winger Gilberto. The Angolan international joined the Soweto Giants on a 3-year deal from Petra de Luanda on a reportedly 12 million rand fee and featured in their pre-season tour in Spain. The 23-year-old attacker is one of 2 major signings Pirates have made so far, with midfielder Selelo Rasebocha, who joined on a free transfer from SuperSport United. Now, Monyane believes they can do better than winning the MTN 8 and Nedbank Cup double ahead of the 24-25 season.
Well, obviously with the new lads coming in, having to gel with the team also. But all I can say is that isn't pretty much something so different, We're looking forward to actually competing, and we don't want to repeat the mistakes of which we've done last season, because we know what happened in the CAF space. We bowed out very soon, and we're looking forward to going all the way and actually, getting the second star.
And that's a wrap of sport here on SFM. I'm Zai Khan. Headlines top of the hour.
Explore the family drama and legacy of one of the most powerful royal families in South Africa, the Mukwebos. This is Mubango, 30 Years of Democracy, Season 1 and Season 2. See how it all began, from when a king suddenly dies, leaving behind 2 wives, one from a customary marriage and the other from a civil union, coming full circle to the coronation of one of his sons. Mubango Season 1 and Season 2, Monday to Friday, 9 p.m. on SABC 2. You belong.
Channel more reasons to feel encouraged on Afternoon Express, Tuesday at 6 p.m. on S3, as Councillor Sadia Southgate shares how mental health support helps us see a brighter day. Making sense of food labels gets us eating right. Chef Dumi and Jay make a whipped feta and grilled lamb flatbread. That's Afternoon Express, this Tuesday at 6 p.m. only on S3. Repeat Sundays at 8:30 a.m.
X at SFM Radio and at Ashraf Garda.
Tell you what, Opa in Church doesn't miss it with his tweet listening from Tabazimbi in Limpopo. So you certainly are listening with an audio channel. Well, you're certainly part of this community that drives National Pulse. Opa, thumbs up to you, right? Let's get to some of the callers and some of the issues that we've raised already. Ntlanga in Hammanskraal. Let's go ahead. What's your point, Ntlanga?
Yes, how are you?
I'm good indeed. Right, go ahead.
I'm good. The thing of safety at school, it's a very concerning issue. I've got a child who's got special need, who's partially deaf, right? So he's using his hearing aid at school. So he was bullied at school until they broke his hearing aid, like they crushed them. They crushed the hearing aid, and now he can't go to school. And we've been, this government hospital, when you go and ask when you apply for hearing aid, it can take 8 months, 9 months. So as I am, I'm not working, and then they broke both his hearing aids. It's the parents of the kid who broke the hearing aid. They don't want to take responsibility. So it means that my son won't write his trial exams and also his mid-year grade 12, end of the year grade 12.
I mean, that's a horrible story, isn't it? It's just horrible.
Yes, because they just broke his whole grade 12. If I don't find any, and you know how much are those things? 8,500, and I'm unemployed. Like we don't have any other sort of income. So if now he's not, it means if the longer the government hospital await us for his hearing aid, he's not going to school and he's not going to write his exams. You see that this kid has killed somebody's life.
And just to confirm, just to rewind, I mean, what was the cause? What actually happened?
There were these kids who were bullying him. They were calling him deaf ear and what. So they were taking, like, every time on the bus, this kid will take his hearing aid and run with it because they know that they can. So they were teasing him, bullying him because he's wearing hearing aid. Some of them will call him Mandela because Mandela used to wear one hearing. So they were bullying him until one day, while they're busy taking them out and running with them, and then they fell and then they step on them. So they cut them dead.
Okay.
So now he can't write his matric because he can't hear, so he can't go to school. So.
I am so sorry. I'll tell you what, let me give a shout out. I don't know, in terms of my position, if anybody can come to the assistance of Mklanga in Hammanskraal for his child, his son, please help. I don't know how, but just, maybe leave your details with us. There's no promises, not at all, okay? I can't say that. But you just don't know. Sometimes we have people that form part of this community that drives the National Pulse who comes up and says, hey, I can solve a problem here. Because right now, if he misses grade 12, that is just not on, honestly speaking. So thanks for bringing it to our attention. I'm so sorry what's happened there to you and certainly to your family in this case here, right? KG in Pretoria, hello.
Ashraf, hi.
How's it, man? Miss South Africa, right? You want to talk about?
Yes, the finalist, the lady whose parents is from Nigeria and the mother from Mozambique.
Yeah.
You know what, Ashraf, I kind of understand a whole lot of people, more especially black people, that are saying she should be representing Nigeria instead of South Africa. One thing is that in our culture, there is no South African of Nigerian heritage. There is no South African of Dutch heritage. You're either Dutch or you're Nigerian or you're South African. You are what your father is in our culture. Now, the problem comes where our norms, culture, and the way we're doing our things as African was excluded big time in the Roman Dutch law system that we find ourselves in, of which I find it to be completely unfair. I'll make you an example, Ashraf. Where I'm saying currently, I'm not of that specific tribe, but I was allowed to stay there to build my business there. But there's certain things that I cannot do because I'm not of that specific tribe. And I can never be one of them. And I don't have a problem with that. That's an African way of doing things as well. So the bottom line with this lady is that, I feel sad for her, but the bottom line with her is that people are actually speaking from their own way of doing things, of which, like I said, the Roman Dutch law hugely disadvantaged African way of doing things.
Okay, but here's the last thing on this one here. The fact that, and again, I stand to be corrected here. We'll chat to Tebe Kalafeng about this later on, right? I stand to be corrected, but for me, I hear what you're saying in terms of where she comes from, but if they are naturalized South Africans, then they're South Africans. Now, I understand your point about culture, and yes, each one has different cultures that are very, very different, right? But our constitution effectively oversees the culture. It takes precedence over the culture. And if her parents and she are naturalized South Africans, does it really matter where they've come from?
I hear you and I agree with you. That's why we go back to our ways of doing things. We're not considered when the very same constitution we speak of was drafted. So that's where the issue is. We need to actually incorporate or harmonize the African way of doing things, culture and law, into the current Roman Dutch law that we have in this country.
Okay, got that. I'll tell you what, that's such an interesting thought, not so much about the South Africa issue, but, in terms of cultural law, tribal laws, and beyond that. So thanks for that call. Much appreciated. I wonder what you may think of that, in terms of, you have the Constitution, which is made up of a whole lot of influences, but then you get cultural and tribal rules. And should the tribal rules or cultural rules have greater precedence over our Constitution? It can't change now, but should it have been that way? Or would that have thrown us down to another whole very difficult to meander river. 086 000 2032. Well, you move the national pulse. It's your thoughts. What for you are the issues that drives the biggest issues in the country today? WhatsApp 0614 104 107. Right. Here's in fact, there's a few more comments about safety.
Good afternoon, Ms. Ashraf. It's the tracker here in KZN. Ms. Ashraf, as a nation, there's few people who are safe in this country. Those big politicians like your president, your vice president, other ministers, they are not even safe. You remember the minister of transport? None of us is safe. Look at what is happening in KZN. People are going around in cars, terrorizing the residents. Nobody cares. We are not safe in this country. And you tell me about the guy who's saying, why are the criminals being killed by the police? Where is he now?
Okay, Mr. Truck Driver, as always, thanks for your comments, and I certainly hear that often enough, right? Let's see if we can pick up another comment also on the issue of school security. It's an important issue.
We are talking about access control here, as trained securities, where we know who's going to the school, who's going for the school for what, to do what at the school. It's as simple as that. Even the neighbors, people who are employed there in the school, they should be trained security guards. Like us, we are running around here without employment. Who is going to the school, going for there for what? It's an access control. You don't open the gate for someone who's not authorized in the school to enter. That's what is needed in the schools everywhere. It's zero. It doesn't exist. Case in Kakhis.
Okay, so that's another one. Well, you see, my understanding is you're right. How can it be possible, not just only for shooting a teacher, what about the learners who are in school, that anybody who wishes to enter a school grounds is able to do so? How difficult do we make it for them to enter? And we should. Now, the counter-argument to that is, especially in rural communities, the resources between rural and, being in Umhlanga in Durban or Camps Bay in Cape Town or Houghton, Joburg, they're very, very different, isn't it? Okay, here's a comment on Venezuela.
Hi, Ashraf. Jose here from Mpumalanga. I'm listening to the events that are happening in Venezuela. I'm just hearing exactly the same as we heard from a certain MK party leader saying that they have proof of certain things. But have you guys been able to establish if this proof has actually ever been shown to anybody, this proof of rigging of elections? It looks like if it's a kind of like a global thing now, everybody's got proof, but it doesn't seem like if anybody ever shows it.
Well, at this point in time, there is no proof, but they do claim they have it, so let them bring it forward, and then if that's the case, we will certainly talk to you about it. Here's another one. Ashraf, if someone says you are what your father is, let me get this right. Ashraf, if someone says you are what your father is, then my father is an absent father who is from France. I'm a black vendor man who was raised by a stepfather. What does he mean? From Brian Mabaya. Maybe, Brian, you should tell us, what do you think it means? I mean, I'm battling. I hear what you're saying, but maybe only you can understand what that really means, okay? And tell us exactly what it is. We should be chatting, by the way, about the numbers of police officers who have committed suicide, and that's a huge concern, but that comes up later on. We are going to talk, by the way, on the issue of Miss South Africa. We chat to Tebe Kalafeng. He has certainly voiced his opinion in the most strongest ways possible. But let's talk about young South Africans and their relationship with their bosses right after this.
Weeknights on S3 are all about winning, and winning big with Wheel of Fortune. For the first time in South Africa, Wheel of Fortune is on S3, Monday to Friday at 7:30 p.m, where Rorisang has South Africans locked into the world of word puzzles. Watch contestants spin the wheel to stand a chance of walking away with 100,000 Rand, or a car valued at over 500,000 Rand. You can also be part of the show and win big. To be part of the show, log on to wheeloffortunesa.tv and let the wheel decide your fate. Channel your inner wordsmith with Wheel of Fortune SA on S3. Open up.
For years, Outsurance have been saying they will save you money on your car insurance or give you cash if they don't. Here are real clients who put it to the test.
Hi, my name is Deboho. I'm 36 from Benoni, and I pay 762 Rand for my Ford Figo 2018 model with Outsurance Comprehensive.
So here's how it works. SMS out to 30754. We'll give you a no-obligation car insurance quote. If the quote is less than you're currently paying, you'll end up saving money on your car insurance every month. And if it's more than you're currently paying, you can ask for 500 Rand. And if you've been with the same insurer and claim free for 3 years or more and we can't beat your premium, tell us you want 1,500 Rand.
As the slogan goes, you always get something out, either your savings or the 500 Rand.
Pay less every month or get cash. You just can't lose. Go to outsurance.co.za for a 10-minute quote that could save you thousands. Licensed insurer and FSP. T's and C's online.
It's either you have it or you don't. The Watermaster demonstrated what it takes to eventually lay your hands on gold. Cameron Vanderberg won the 100-meter breaststroke gold medal at the 2012 Summer Olympics in a new world record time of 58.46 seconds.
Still got a good lead, Vandenberg. Katajima won't get there. Does he get the world record, Vandenberg? He's done the lot in one big swim.
What a performance. Celebrate. Well done, Cameron Vanderberg. South Africa wins gold.
Vanderberg also represented South Africa at the 2008 and 2016 Olympics. He has won numerous world championship medals since his debut in 2007 when he took a bronze. Magical moments of the Olympics. Brought to you by SABC Sport, proud broadcaster of the Olympic Games Paris 2024.
For the love of the game.
The National Pulse, weekdays, 3 to 6 p.m.
Looking at this tweet from Mike Sharman from Retroviral, he's a marketer, right? He said, to put the issue into context, he's talking about Tatiana Smith, right? In the past 2 Olympic Games, South Africa collected 6 medals. Tatiana Smith, or Tatiana Schoenmaker, is 3, and the only 2 golds we've won. Several events to go in Paris, but we really don't celebrate Tatiana enough. How interesting is that? Let's talk about celebrating employers or employees. I don't know. InQuest or InfoQuest have a survey, and they say that 54% of young people in South Africa are not loyal to their employer. And the case is even worse in Gauteng. Okay, let's understand what the survey really tells us with Claire Hackroth, the Managing Director of InfoQuest. Claire, thanks for joining us on the National Pulse. Hi.
Thank you, and thanks for having me.
Okay. So the survey sounds very disturbing to me. If basically half of people employed are not loyal. First of all, what does loyal mean?
Yeah, I think that is a very good question, because we don't feel that it actually really is loyalty. It's more to do with people looking for better advantages, better opportunities, better career advancement. So they're not loyal to a company if they can benefit themselves better, if that makes more sense.
Meaning what? They would want away at the earliest opportunity?
I think that if from what we've seen, they are pretty loyal to their bosses. They say that their leaders listen to them, that their leaders actually give them good advice and do mentor them well. But the thing is that people feel that they're not probably being remunerated as they should be. They feel that those that are in jobs have got better opportunities to look for better jobs. So they don't stick with a company if they don't necessarily have to.
Okay, so this is very different to a position where somebody is working in a company and intends staying in the company, and while in the company commits acts that effectively undermines the company. That's a different sort of loyalty or disloyalty, right?
Definitely. This isn't anything like this. So this is, I think, the Gen Z or Gen Z youth of today. They are definitely They enjoy looking at different opportunities, and not only monetary rewards, but also to learn new things, because they do get bored a lot quicker than the older generation. So we believe that they actually are looking to find ways to be happy in a position rather than necessarily the money. Money is a factor, but it's not the only one.
Now, I would think that if that's the case, and I see it's worse even in Gauteng, right, that then presents greater challenges for the employers to, once employing people, hold on to them, isn't it?
Exactly. This is why we're saying that employers need to take cognizance of this, because they can be losing people to, other companies, and they need to be looking at this restlessness that the youth have and to try and innovate, to adapt their workplace practices to better engage and retain young talent.
I would take it that, the response you've got from your survey may be consistent with other surveys like this around the world, meaning that young people who are skilled know they have choices, they have opportunities, and they are therefore going to be targeted and headhunted by other companies who are going to offer them and dangle a carrot to them.
Yes, I think that this is probably an interesting one to look at. It does seem to be worldwide. It is this generation. And the thing is that employers also need to look at this as not a bad thing. I don't think it's all doom and gloom. I think it needs to be looked at from a different point of view. Because our youth can bring different and fresh perspectives to an organization. They're innovative. They drive economic growth, and they keep South Africa competitive. So it's a good thing, and employers just need to be aware that they can lose their good people if they're not doing what they can to retain them.
Okay, just lastly, anything that's come out of the survey of these 300 young people that really surprised you?
I think that it was a lot to do with KZN. But that also could be the economy. But KZN seemed to be really lagging when it came to job opportunities and young people having even less. Let's put it in inverted commas, loyalty to their companies.
Okay, that's where you can leave it. Claire Hackworth, the Managing Director at InfoQuest. Appreciate your time there. Thank you so much. Half of young people in South Africa not loyal to their employers, but basically what it means is if they have an opportunity to leave and move to, where the grass is greener, then they're going to be gone. But isn't that just exactly what you expect, which then means that companies must hold on to their staff. And the only way they can do that is, one is the money, two is the work environment, to create a culture that allows them to grow, and thirdly, to give them the type of recognition and rewards and career pathway to the very top within that company. It's very similar to, if you join a football club and your club's not performing and another club who's doing much better than you are performing and they want you, well, where do you think you're going to land up, isn't it? Think about that. Now, yesterday we spoke about the Pinelands High School. We'll get a clip on that, a response from the Western Cape Department of Education.
Night Talk with Oliver Dixon.
South Africa's often been accused, at least for the better part of the last 20 years, of being a country that loses investment opportunity because of policy uncertainty.
I think it's important to state what we've always stated, which is that transformation is not an act of charity. It's not a donation or gift to black people. It is an imperative in this country to address the historic injustices in this country and ensure that black people are able to have equitable access to economic opportunities. But it's also in the interest of the economy, because in fact, if you broaden the base of entrepreneurs in this country, you're creating better competitiveness. You don't have a limited number of entrepreneurs, but you broaden the base of entrepreneurs that are able to contribute towards economic prosperity and job creation.
The Minister of Trade, Industry and Competition, Minister Baxter.
Night Talk, Monday to Thursdays, 10 to midnight. X at SFM Radio and at Ashraf Garda.
And before Oliver's show, you have the Viewpoint. Remember, tonight's Viewpoint Legends Lounge. The guest is Justice Kola Petzer, who was the Deputy President of the Supreme Court of Appeal. He's recently retired, so listen out for that coming up in the show between 8 to 10, right? Now, the Western Cape Department of Education Communications Director, that's Bronham Hammond, has given us an update on that issue regarding the Pinelands High School. Remember, we spoke about it yesterday. We couldn't get comment from them, unfortunately. But what's really happened? The context is these school learners effectively, outside of the school classroom, I should say, effectively had a slave auction and put people into cages and auctioned them off. And really, the auction in terms of who were the slaves were done on the basis of their skin pigmentation. Well, here's a response from the Western Cape Department of Education.
The school has acted swiftly in terms of addressing the matter. The investigation is ongoing but is nearing completion, with 24 learners having been interviewed in the first 2 school days since the allegations were made. 4 learners are currently on suspension and will face a disciplinary hearing, and steps will also be taken against other learners who have transgressed certain provisions within the Code of Conduct. Counselling support has been prioritised by the school, with debriefing sessions having already taken place for all grade 8 learners and further support for the rest of the school. The WC is also supplementing the counselling support. A disciplinary process is being followed currently. The outcome of this process will determine the way forward in addressing this matter further. The school has also expressed its appreciation to the school community for their support in dealing with this matter.
Okay, so what do you make of that? Any further thoughts, any comments on that issue? And, yesterday I spoke about it. I said I really believe that we need to have a nationwide workshop where we all must attend, because I think the issue of racial or racism consciousness, we all that needs to be heightened. And how do we do that? It can't be left to the police or the school heads. It's got to be us in our homes, and therefore we as groups need to attend workshops. It's that important. It's 4:00. Time for the news with Madupi.
Thank you very much, and Ashraf Garda. The top stories at 4. The principal of Pretoria Girls High is suspended, and the Zulu King opens the KZN legislature. A very good afternoon. The principal of Pretoria Girls High School has been suspended for 3 months. Gauteng Education MEC Matume Chilwane made the announcement in Pretoria a short while ago. This follows the suspension of 12 learners at the school last week. They're implicated in a controversy involving racial comments and complaints about black learners. Chilwane says the principal knew about the matter since last year.
While we're still busy with disciplinary process, we have taken a decision to suspend the principal of the school up until we conclude this matter. We have appointed the deputy principal, one of the deputies, to come in and act. In the interim, she's been barred from communicating with learners, she's been barred from communicating with parents, she's been barred from communicating with educators. We are anticipating that in 3 months we'll be done with this whole case and the whole disciplinary process.
The Human Rights Commission says it'll conduct an investigation into allegations of racism among learners at Pinelands High School in Cape Town. This after a video of black learners allegedly being detained in a cage by fellow coloured learners started circulating online. The video of the black learners, who are depicted as being sold on auction as slaves, has been described as deeply disturbing and hurtful by Western Cape Education. Human Rights Commissioner Chris Nissen says their investigation will help promote social cohesion at the school.
When a school who's prestigious like that one, at grade 8, when learners come in, what was the orientation with regard to social cohesion and integration? When a school is a knowledge generator, what are they teaching children in that school? How does this reflect society in which we live? What about the family? What is our responsibility of families to ensure that we do the right thing and teach our children the right thing?
Charges against the whistleblower Patricia Morgan Mashale and her husband George Mashale have been dismissed in the Bloemfontein Magistrates Court. The couple was facing 2 charges of harassment and defamation opened by Free State Deputy Police Commissioner Solili Sia for breach of a harassment order he had obtained against him over WhatsApp messages. Morgan Mashali, who is a former SAPS employee, went into hiding in 2022 after several threats were made against her for reporting suspicious activities allegedly committed by senior police officials, including unprocedural promotions and appointments. AmaZulu King Misuzulukazi Welithini has raised concerns over what he has called the escalating gun violence in KZN. The Zulu monarch was addressing the official opening of the provincial legislature in Pietermaritzburg. Tomorrow, Premier Tamin Ntuli will deliver his inaugural State of the Province address. King Misuzulu's concerns follow several shootouts between police and suspects. He's appealed to the police to curb these violent crimes.
As I stand here today, many Amakosi, Izinduna, and community members are buried because of this gun violence. The critical point is that there are always instigators behind all of these shootings. Due to the gun violence, many families are impoverished by this, having lost breadwinners who are caretakers of their families. One question is asked all the time: why do we have crime?
The king also urged the government of provincial unity and members of the legislature to work tirelessly to improve the province's economy.
To my political leaders and members of this house, I congratulate all of you on your election. Those who elected you did so because they trust you. Remember that now you are a member of this house. You represent all of us. As the 7th KwaZulu-Natal legislature, you have a crucial role to play. 5 years is not a long time. I urge you to work hard and speedily.
And the foreign policy advisor to former Venezuelan President Hugo Chavez says there are concerns over the country's electoral process following the re-election of Nicolas Maduro. Earlier, riot police fired rubber bullets and tear gas at protesters who took to the streets in large numbers to denounce the official outcome of Sunday's poll. Crowds have demonstrated in towns and cities across Venezuela, condemning Maduro's re-election as fraudulent. Eva Golinga elaborates on concerns by the electorate.
I can't say whether or not this election had fraud or not, but what does seem unusual is the fact that there was a significant larger number of voters who had come out to vote against Maduro, and the whole process seems to have been flawed, which is unusual for the Venezuelan electoral process, which in prior years had been shown to be a fairly efficient and safe and fair electoral system.
The top story at 4 o'clock, the principal of Pretoria Girls High has been suspended for 3 months. For SAFM News, Kemudupi Makhalemele.
A very good afternoon to you. In your SFM sports headlines, we're looking at the South Africans in action at the Olympics in Paris. It's good news for rowing as Paige Badenhorst advanced to the rowing quarterfinals. She finished 4th. We'll keep an eye on Vincent Lagoni, who's competing in the BMX freestyle as we speak. And in tennis action, Coco Gauff is out of the Olympics. She was beaten by Donna Vekic. Details at around 4:30.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Good afternoon. Starting off in Gauteng, the M1 southbound in central Johannesburg is queuing towards Crown Interchange, and the R59 northbound in Alberton has a crash reported on the link to the N12 East at Reading Interchange. In KZN, the N3 eastbound has a crash reported near the Pavilion Shopping Centre. The N2 southbound is queuing towards Spaghetti Junction, and Umgeni Road is slow moving through Springfield Park. In Cape Town, the M5 southbound is slow moving towards Milner Road. The M3 southbound is slow moving towards Rhodes Drive, the N2 Nelson Mandela Boulevard outbound slow moving towards Hospital Bend, and the N1 outbound is slow moving towards the M5 Kuburg interchange. With your traffic update, I'm Irma G.
SAFM 104 to 107 nationwide.
Hey, want to check your TV license balance conveniently? Look no further. Our SMS service allows you to do just that. by sending a message containing your ID or TV license number to 44210, you can quickly access your balance without needing multiple inquiries or waiting on hold. Plus, standard SMS rates apply. Take advantage of this efficient method to stay informed and streamline your payment process today. T's and C's apply.
Channel more reasons to feel encouraged on Afternoon Express, Tuesday at 6 p.m. on S3, as Councillor Sadia Southgate shares how mental health support helps us see a brighter day. Making sense of food labels gets us eating right. Chef Dumi and Jay make a whipped feta and grilled lamb flatbread. That's Afternoon Express, this Tuesday at 6 p.m. only on S3. Repeat Sundays at 8:30 a.m.
The National Pulse with Ashraf Garda on SAFM. You're listening to the National Pulse, weekdays 3 to 6 p.m.
We are going to chat to Steve Mabona from the Gauteng Department of Education about the Pretoria High School's story. We will chat about the rainwater maintenance project, something we've been covering. I believe it's over, but is the water problems over? We will find out. We will also talk about the shortage of judges in Gauteng. Goodness, man. How can that be possible, isn't it? We'll talk about that too, and the other issues around safety in schools that we touched on in the early part of the show. We'll chat to Elijah Maslanga, the Department of Basic Education spokesperson. So there's so much all connected to education that we'll talk about. But what about this issue? The issue of Chidima Vanessa Adetshina, a contestant in Miss South Africa. We're not discussing how competent she may be to win the overall Miss South Africa or not. That's another whole conversation, because the conversation at the moment has been around her heritage, her legacy, her ancestry, where she comes from, what nationality, and it's caused quite a row. It's been going on for quite a few weeks, in fact, right? Whether we can say social media is the be-all and end-all, clearly it's not the case, right? But there's a sense from many people that, she should not be representing South Africa. So why would that be the case? Well, here's the story, that the one narrative is that she's South African, born at Chris Hani Baragwana. I'm just thinking it's even strange even mentioning the hospital. Like, it's just crazy how to even say that. Her father is Nigerian. Her mother is Mozambican, of Mozambican descent. I understand that they are naturalized South Africans, and she effectively stands to represent South Africa. And that has really got many people saying she's not one of us, type of thing. So what does Tebe Ikalafeng make of this? He certainly is Mr. Africa in more ways than one. Tebe, I appreciate your time. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you so much for having me over, Ashraf.
Thank you. Well, I'll tell you what, I saw your tweet, and we haven't covered the story the whole of last week, but it was a case of, we need to get the right angles on this issue. And I see, in your tweet, maybe vent is even the wrong word, but you've made it very clear in your stand, and I'm not going to read the whole thing. You can do that in terms of your stand, to say, how can it ever be that South Africans are trying to other people who live in this country? So what's your thought on this overall issue, firstly?
Well, first, the most important question we should ask ourselves is, what makes one South African? It is, and the only place to find that definition is the Constitution of the Republic of South Africa. And it clearly states that you must be born in South Africa, and one of your parents must either be a permanent resident or a naturalized or a born South African. So that makes you South African. So if that is the definition of being South African, then it really doesn't matter where your parents come from. Everything else is immaterial, and you're entitled to all the privileges and all the courtesies that are accorded anybody who walks around with an identity that says South
Okay, so on that basis, what you've just mentioned, Tebe, I would think would be consistent with most countries in the world. You're either born in that country, so you're a citizen by birth, or your parents emigrate and then you become a naturalized person of that country, and that's the end of the conversation, right? So the fact that they come from somewhere else, maybe ensures there's a bit of color, if I can put it that way, to that person's background. I think of Barack Obama in terms of the same way, and Kamala Harris in the USA now also having that type of thing. But that's as far as it goes. So what's the big issue in terms of what's your understanding about what's going on in South Africa right now with regard to this contestant?
I think that with South Africa, the bigger challenge or the bigger issue really goes back to South Africans themselves. Some people perhaps put it better than me when they said there's a lack of knowledge or lack of understanding or a naivety about what it means to be South African. But also it goes beyond that. It goes to the other nasty character that is not part of who we are, which is tendencies, xenophobic tendencies, if you will. And particularly in a country which claims to be united in its diversity, particularly in a country which owes a lot to many of the countries from where many of these people come from that we are rejecting.
So do you get this point? I'm not saying you agree with it. Do you get this point from many people who are saying, okay, so she's in South Africa, but, her blood is not pure South African. That's really the essence of what they're saying, because both her parents are not from this country. I mean, how do you relate to even something like that in this world today? I mean, it's almost looking for, I'm going back to the Verwoerdian, concept of your blood being absolutely pure to be, in this case, white South African.
Well, I don't subscribe to the idea of your blood being purely, if you will, pure. I don't even know what is pure blood, because many of us can claim heritages from everywhere else. I could claim that my grandfather is from Botswana, and I'm my grandmother is from South Africa. Does that make me impure or half pure? Which is a statement of fact, and what do you know about some of the politicians that we've read and heard about that are perhaps not even, his parents are not even from here. Half of them are not here, or fully of them are not from here. What does that make them? The only definition that matters is the Constitution, because it is the guiding principle. It is the Bible that defines who is South African. If you fulfill that criteria, you are South African.
Okay. Are you surprised, however, by the outcry from people, however misguided they may be?
I'm not surprised, because remember 2013 or so, I think, or 2015, I can't remember, there was a spate of this xenophobic attacks, a spate of rejection of people who are not born in South Africa. And I'll tell you an example. I arrived in Ghana in 20-something, maybe 2014 or so, at the airport, and as I gave them my passport, and they see my passport is South African, and they looked at my face and they said, how could you do this to us after everything we've done for you? How could you kill us? Are we not your brothers? Are we not fellow Africans? So the challenge that we have as South Africans is this inability to understand what it means to be who we are. But the truth of the matter is, we are a very fragile, we are very damaged, we are a people. We come from a history where we are divided into tribes, a history where we're divided between countries, a history where we're dehumanized, and all those are manifesting themselves in a very nasty way of treating others now that we think we have freedom.
Now, I've noticed, besides, the public speaking from their soapboxes, a significant comment has come from the Minister of Sports, Arts and Culture, that's Minister Gayton McKenzie, tweeting in response to people asking him questions on that social media X platform. And he said, I've just returned from Paris and will definitely get more information tomorrow. Tomorrow would be today, right? And then he says, we truly cannot have Nigerians compete in our Miss South Africa competition. I want to get all the facts before I comment, but it gives funny vibes already. Your comment?
I'll be seeing Gayton actually in a couple of hours. I'd love to challenge him on that comment, because we should be very definitive about who we are as South Africans. We should be definitive about what the laws of the Republic are. We should be definitive about our loyalties to the continent. There are people who arrived in this country in 1652. They were on the way to India, and they stopped somewhere in Cape Town, and they never left. And today they own all of us, and we have never ever challenged their identity. So let that sink.
How? Okay, so here's the minister. You're going to meet him today. Well, we'd love to get feedback. We'd love to get both feedback. You and him tomorrow. I mean, let us know how we can take this.
I'm going to see him somewhere. It is not a meeting, but wherever I'm going in the next couple of hours, he will be there as well. and I'd love to pull him aside and say, Gaten, what did you mean?
Now, I mean, don't you think, and I'm preempting your conversation, fortuitous meeting up with him, right? But saying, I'll get the information, then saying we cannot have Nigerians compete. Why would a minister say that? Because he's commenting and then he's saying, I want to get all the facts before I comment, but it gives funny vibes already. So he is commenting.
Yeah, but I think the correct thing the minister should have said is, I don't have all the information at hand, but what I do know about the laws of the republic is that if you are born in this country, you're naturalized, or you are born South African, you have all the rights that are afforded to a South African. That's all he had to say. And then he says, and that's why even in my tweet, if you saw in my tweet and my Instagram, I wrote in the end, if she is South African legally, then she is the right to participate, to represent us in the Miss South Africa. She has the right to stand on the highest mountain and proclaim, I am South African.
I also know, and I can't remember the person's name, but in one of the earlier posts around a similar issue, they picked up that one of the contestants has a Chinese or sort of Far East Asian background, and again suggesting she can't represent a situation. How do you respond to that as well?
Well, then all of us should go for a DNA, because all of us can find within ourselves that none of us are from here, because we come from a continent that is very migrant. Many of the people who perhaps are even out saying people are not South African, they probably are children of migrant workers from Mozambique, from Malawi, and from many countries, but they do not know, because this is a country where up to 60% of the people do not know their fathers, and those 60% who don't know their fathers, for all we know, their fathers are from Mozambique and from Malawi and from everywhere. So they too should be the last one to throw a stone at anybody, at any glass house.
Here's the last thing, Tebe. How do we counter this? And I say this in the context of that far too many people, and I'm talking about leaders and in this case politicians specifically, who've been othering people from Africa, as not being South African enough, and I'm not talking of Miss SA, and you know that, right? And almost discarding them, even though many of them come to this country legally and live in this country. This anti-xenophobic or xenophobic narrative has been playing on us for a good number of years, where it's become a normal thing compared to its absence about 20 years ago. How do we counter that?
We counter that by ensuring that within our schools, which leaves much to be desired right now, that we have the curriculum that teaches people about the history of South Africa, teaches people about the Constitution of South Africa, teaches people about what we mean when we say we're united in diversity, teaches people about understanding that before 1994, many people were living in exile in Zambia, and the Zambians sacrificed everything to make them who they are. Many people went to Nigeria, and they were during exile, and were given armaments to come here, to come in and fight for this freedom. Many of them were in Tanzania. Julius Nyerere ensured that they are safe. Many of them were in Mozambique. So if we know all that, from our schools, from our history books, then we'll be better prepared. The blame can perhaps go back all the way to the government of the day.
Absolutely.
We have not done a good job of helping, of alleviating this challenge.
In fact, I've made a similar comment on the issues of racism. So increased anti-racism workshops, increased consciousness around who we are as South Africans and Africans. Dr. Tebe Kalafang, appreciate your time. Thank you for joining us and your insights. We'll certainly have this up as a podcast as well.
Welcome to the SABC TV License Loyalty Program, where your payment isn't just about paying fees. It's about joining a vibrant community of connected viewers. Ready for the journey? Here's your roadmap. Sign up at sabctvlicenserewards.co.za and unlock an instant reward. You'll get an SMS to confirm your registration. Make a 50% or 100% payment to your account for a payment confirmation SMS and a promotional code. Explore our partners' product catalogs for an array of offerings. Receive an SMS voucher for your favorite outlet as the icing on the cake. Don't wait. Dive into a world of benefits. Register now at sabctvlicenserewards.co.za. T's and C's apply. Remember, TV license fees aren't just payments. They make a difference. Greatness has a way of overcoming all the obstacles. South Africa is readmitted into the International Olympic Committee. The Afrika Dzonga flag was flown by marathoner Dan Dau at the opening ceremony of the Olympic Games Barcelona 1992. Ilana Meyer rose to the occasion with a silver medallion in the women's 10,000 meters. While tennis doubles pairing of Wayne Ferreira and Pete Norval grabbed another silver.
Second and silver medalist representing South Africa, Wayne Ferreira and Pete Norval.
Team Africa Chibembe. Magical moments of the Olympics. Brought to you by SABC Sport, proud broadcaster of the Olympic Games Paris 2024.
For the love of the game.
X at SFM Radio and at Ashraf Garda.
How interesting is this? We had that caller early on who spoke about his youngster, who I think was hard of hearing or deaf, who then was attacked by learners who, at this point in time can't write his grade 12. Well, we've had, and he doesn't have the money now. We've had someone saying, please connect me to that person. Let me see if I can help. So we'll get Keys to try and see if they can make that connection. Let's talk about this now. The Police and Prison Civil Rights Union, that's POPCRU. Now, they say that more and more police officers are taking their own lives due to the poor working conditions that impact their productivity. According to POPCRU, 300 police officers have taken their own lives since 2017. It's about, 40 a year, I think it is, right? So clearly this is a huge concern right now. What is the story and what do we do next around it? Richard Mamabola, the spokesperson for the Police and Prison Civil Rights Union, is with me on the National Pulse. Good of you to join me, Richard. Thanks for your time.
Good afternoon to you and the listeners.
Thank you. So these numbers, would you consider that high, or is that normal for police officers when compared to others in similar situations around the world?
Well, they are very high. In fact, South Africa is considered one of the highest globally. So it's something that should definitely be worrying us. But, we do recognize that the SAPS has noticed this challenge for some time now. And they've introduced programs to deal with that, specifically dealing with post-traumatic stress disorder due to the conditions that members within the the criminal justice cluster work under. You know that police go to scenes and, of course, they one way or another end up participating in stopping criminality. So that has got a lot of impact on their mental wellness, and as a result, some of them would have post-traumatic stress disorder. So that is one aspect of it, but as well the fact that we've got a lot of members who are highly indebted, and of course in most cases most of the members are backyard dwellers, so there are substance abuses involved, and of course these are areas which we think have got an impact on the levels of suicides, because when you look at the suicides that have been committed, it's mainly related to financial challenges, challenges around relationships, and of course, in some instances, abuses of substances. So that again has got also had impact not only on them as individuals, but their families as well, because in some of the instances, just like what happened on the weekend, you had an officer who killed certain people close to them and ended up committing suicide. So those are some of the common cases, and we feel that the programs which have been set up, as good as they are with good intentions, they have not necessarily been effective due to a number of reasons that we have been engaging our members around, and our members have obviously highlighted challenges due to those. In the SAPS, for example, if you are to be promoted or you apply for a senior position, you would have to be evaluated, and part of that evaluation involves the mental state that you'd be in. So if you have been, most officers feel that if you have been through these programs, the manner in which they lack confidentiality, it would mean that your information would be known, or any other information, your health status and all such, would be known by your colleague, and that creates a stigma. So a lot of members have not been utilizing these programs and instead opting for private services, and that of course that defeats the intention of having these programs.
Well, it is absolutely a cause for concern. So one thing, it's a real tragedy that, 300 people have taken their lives, and the impact, obviously, in terms of their own lives and then their families. I don't even want to think about it. The other is the fact that if you're saying that it's about the working conditions and the stresses that are concerned, and the other concern is even those that are living, right, how they obviously must also be stressed. They haven't taken their own lives, thank goodness for that. But then what impact does that have on their working conditions and their ability to serve the country as police officers?
Yeah, look, the morale is quite low. I think from time to time we do complain about the challenges around police killings, the uneven allocation of resources. One of the worst things is that, communities always think that police are lazy and they don't do their work. But, if they were to take time and go to police stations, especially those within townships and rural areas, they would find that, there are shortages of vehicles. Some vehicles have been on service for over 6 months. And at any given time, you go to a police station and in such areas, you find that there are probably, the staff complement, there are probably 3 or 5 people working on a night shift. And these are people who look after huge communities. So it's not always easy for police to be everywhere at the same time. They obviously attacked on a regular basis. You've heard of cases where police stations are attacked and police are killed. So there are uneven challenges around the uneven allocation of resources. Most of these officers, by the way, are breadwinners, and you would know that in the public service, of course, wages have been frozen for quite some time. So the high cost of living as well has got an impact on these members. Some of them, in fact, are backyard dwellers. They don't qualify for RDP houses. They can't afford bonded houses as well. So it's just a variety of challenges.
What more needs to happen? Just finally, we're on to news time. What more needs to happen now? Meaning that there are so many issues around the police, the ministry, that is, right? We have a new police minister now. What, therefore, would be your first point that you'd want to tell him in terms of dealing with police officers?
We've had policing in Indaba last year where we engaged with the previous minister and the current commissioner, so they are fully aware about the challenges, and we're expecting to meet up with the new minister. Priority amongst our issues is around with the killings of police officers, but also looking into their danger allowance. We think that it should be also complemented by a danger insurance. Immediately when a person enters into the service, they then form part of that insurance, because the 250 that is given to the families of deceased members has not demonstrated not to be sufficient enough to even take the kids through schooling.
Okay, that's where we can leave it. Lots of questions. We don't always have the answers to that one, excepting that we know that 300 police officers in the last, 7 years or so have taken their own lives, mainly because of the enormous stresses and conditions that they work under, effectively to try to protect us. I mean, it's a conundrum, and something must be done. As we could apply to that, something must be done to about 10 key indices in South African life. All of that has an impact on the national pulse, right? Let's get the news headlines now. It's just gone 4:30. Yes, Madupi.
Thank you very much, Ashraf, and a very good afternoon. In your headlines, Gauteng Education MEC Matume Chilwane has suspended the principal of Pretoria High School for Girls for 3 months. Trade and Industry Minister Pak Stau says, based on various meetings with members of the U.S. Congress, AGOA is likely to be extended despite the outcome of the U.S. presidential elections. And police in Britain say a third child has died after being stabbed at a dance and yoga workshop in northern England yesterday. Details of these and other stories at 5.
SAFM. Guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Good afternoon. Starting off in Gauteng, the M1 northbound in Sandton has a crash reported before Grayston Drive. The N3 southbound in Lindborough Park has a crash near Marlborough Drive. In Pretoria, the N4 eastbound has a stationary truck before Simon Vermeulen Road, and Eskom Batleli Drive northbound has delays towards Moot Street. In KZN, the N3 eastbound has a crash near Pavilion Shopping Centre exit. The N3 has roadworks with major upgrade works between Spaghetti Junction and the M13 Paradise Valley interchange, and Bayard Road has truck congestion reported at South Coast Road. In Cape Town, the R46 Mitchells Pass in Ceres has traffic restrictions on the pass due to storm damage. In Athlone, Krombom Road eastbound is slow moving towards Jan Smuts Drive, and Jan Smuts Drive southbound is slow moving at Klipfontein Road. With your traffic update, I'm Irma G.
This is SAFM Sport with Zai Khan.
Zai, by the way, before we get into the real issues of sport, and I'm sure Olympics is one of them. So here's this, this is a dramatic. What a bit of trivia. Siya Kolisi's wife. Yeah. And you know who Tatiana's husband, her brother and sister. Like, how crazy is that?
The Smiths sure do know how to pick him, don't they?
Well,
they have gold in that family.
Double gold.
Double gold.
Both won, Japan and now in France.
They've struck gold, literally.
And somebody's asking as we talk, it's like, do they have anybody else not married in that family?
Of course. Why wouldn't we not ask that kind of question? Anyway,
right. What's the big issue?
It's a perfect blend there. Well, let me tell you, the South African Women's Rugby Sevens team is currently leading Fiji 7-0. And this is for the 11th 12 placement match at the Olympics. We are definitely going to look at our standout players, Maria Shiremba, Ayanda Malinga, Libiansa van Rensburg, and Zintle Mapupa. We'll keep you updated with all the action here on SFM Sport. Now, earlier, Paige Badenhorst delivered an impressive performance, and that's in the women's single sculls quarterfinals. She finished 4th and successfully qualified for the semi-final. Other sports, the SA men's hockey team faced a challenging match against Germany, ending with a score 1-5. And in swimming, Matthew Sates competed in the men's 200-meter butterfly heats, finishing 6th in Heat 2, unfortunately not advancing to the next round. And we also got Vincent Lagoni. He's in action currently as we speak with the BMX freestyle. And finally, don't miss Sarah Ann Baum. She'll be in the women's surfing playoffs, and that's around 24 minutes past 9. So you can stay tuned for SFM for the updates. Now, Olympic tennis news. The American star Coco Gauff claims that she was cheated and had a heated argument with the chair umpire after being eliminated from the women's singles. Gauff was defeated by Donna Vekic 7-6, 6-2 in the third round at Roland Garros. The controversy arose when a line call was overturned, awarding a crucial point to Vekic. Gauff in tears protested, stating the call affected her play. Now, despite the setback, Gauff remains in the hunt for an Olympic medal in the women's doubles with Jessica Pegula and in the mixed doubles with Taylor Fritz. Soccer, Orlando Pirates defender Thabiso Moniane has spoken about the arrival of the club's latest signing in winger Gilberto. The Angolan international joined the Soweto Giants on a 3-year deal from Petra de Luanda on a reportedly 12 million rand fee and featured in their pre-season tour in Spain. Now, Pirates will begin their MTN8 title defense against SuperSport on Saturday night, and Moniana insists they've been working on their frailties from the previous campaign.
We know our weaknesses, we know our strengths. We went to Spain. Obviously, we played more games than the past season, as you said, look, man, we're looking forward to starting the season on the high, as I said, and the rest will take care of itself because we know what we're capable of, and we know that we can finish the season strong, which is something that we've proved, so we're looking forward to actually being consistent also, in the season and actually getting, even if it's a rough, it doesn't have to, sometimes have to play beautiful football, but, you can actually grind out the result and get that 1-0 and still a win, and it's going to put you up there.
And that's a wrap of your sport. We'll bring you more on SFM at the top of the hour. I'm Zai Khan.
When Freddie, a troubled woman, is nearly assaulted outside a nightclub, the toilet attendant steps in to help. Baba, a former child soldier, acts with swift, unstoppable brutality. She's entranced. The pair form an instant, intoxicating connection. Something dark within both of them quickly emerges. Soon, they set about exacting revenge on people from Freddie's past. Baba's skill for violence and Freddie's tinge of psychopathy prove a lethal combination. But they are not the only ones on the hunt. We hunt together, Mondays to Wednesdays at 9 p.m. on S3. Starts 24th of July. Channel your best drama with BBC Primetime, only on S3. Open up.
It's going to be a hot women's hockey battle between South Africa and Great Britain in Pool B. Mzansi Africa's plans are to fight hard from the first whistle to the end. But their opponents, GBR, believe they will deliver a touch of great class. This This is the Olympic Games Paris 2024. South Africa tackles Great Britain on Wednesday, 31 July at 10:30 a.m. Live on SABC Sport on DTT Channel 4 and reports on SABC radio stations. Also available on SABC Plus and SABCSport.com. SABC Sport is the proud broadcaster of the Olympic Games Paris 2024. Hashtag the global battle of great athletes.
For the love of the game.
Economic news on SAFM. Facts and figures you can count on.
Right, Paswani Mpatlele is with me, the Senior Account Manager at Makwe Fund Managers. It's always good chatting to you, Paswani. We're going to talk local and global markets in a moment, but let's start with ShopRite's results.
Afternoon. Looking into ShopRite, Ashraf, the guys came out with the operations for the end of the year, June 2024, and they indicated that they increased their number of stores by almost 300 as they continue on their strategic expansion, which reported that strong sales continue to pay off, up 12.3% within their core and supplementary segments. And despite these challenging economic conditions where spending was lower, reflecting their resilience and pricing power, the food inflation was cooling at 5.8%. We see strong performances all over the board. Checkers were doing 12.3%, ShopRite around 10%, liquor stores doing around 20% growth, and stores outside South Africa up by 6%. And despite their strong market positioning, the guys did face some significant cost on the load shedding front, with diesel expenses totaling around 751 million. And this saw the share price was up 1% as investors were happy with the performance. And when you look into the market, we have the investors therefore looking at a market where they are continuously being very cautious ahead of the central bank. Interest rate decisions are coming up to tomorrow with the US, Bank of Japan, and BOE. And with the going geopolitical tensions in the Middle East, investors continue to keep that caution tone on buying risky assets. And the ongoing economic risks that are upcoming have dented the commodity market. We see oil was down 1.5% at $78.68 a barrel. Gold continues to manage to find some safe haven in bid, up 0.2 at $2,387, and platinum up 0.3 at $954 an ounce. And generally, when you look at the market, it's still a mixed performance. US markets are rather flat, just waiting for more earnings coming from tech companies, with only the Dow showing gains of 0.2. Europe was positive with the CAC and DAX up 0.6%. Locally, we've managed to continue to eke out gains, holding momentum, but cautiously so, with our financials helping up with gains up 1%, industrials up 0.7%, while our resource count is still under pressure with those commodities down 0.9%. The rand against the dollar is relatively strong today. Rand against the dollar is at 18.37, rand against the euro 19.85, and rand against the pound is at 23.58. Ashraf.
Okay, got that perfect. Thanks. We're going to chat again tomorrow, Paswani. Thanks for your time. Another market update coming up in an hour's time. Let's get to some of the voice notes. In fact, first of all, there's a comment from someone saying, Ashraf, your traffic update doesn't say anything about the South Coast roads, and things are really bad. Then there's a picture being sent about it. So thank you for that. Appreciated. There's other comments on some of the issues we've had. Here's an interesting one from Khotatso in Cape Town. Good afternoon, SAFM. Some few years back, we had George Kumantelrakis, was born in Athens playing for Bafana, and no one ever complained. So I personally do not see any issue with Chidima participating in the contest. Well, you see, that's the point. As Tebe Kalafenga said, in terms of South Africa's constitution, if you're a naturalized South African, wherever you were born, for example, it really doesn't matter. You're South African, right? It's the soapbox opera that are climbing on these soapboxes on social media and venting off according to their interpretations, who are deciding who is a South African, almost as if they are the ministers of Home Affairs themselves. And that really is an issue, and we can't allow that to happen. There's further voice notes on some of the other issues that we've got. Let me just get to that. Certainly appreciate the fact that we get listeners from all around the country. We also get people from around the world. So we've had a few again today. If you wish to send us a picture of wherever you may be with your, the picture showing locked onto the dial at SAFM. It'll be great if you send it. You can WhatsApp it right away. You can also post it particularly on the X platform. So tweet it out, SAFM Radio, tag me, Ashraf Garda, use the hashtag, The National Pulse, right? Okay, some comments. And here's one about Tebe Kalafang.
Good day, this is TJ from Eguruleni. Ashraf, your guest there about the Miss South Africa, he is absolutely and totally wrong. We don't want Miss South Africa to come from elsewhere. We want Miss South Africa to strictly come from South Africa. We are South Africans. That gentleman you have there is talking something that just strange way of thinking. That's all I can say from your guest.
But why is that strange? I think this is the point. If someone is in the country illegally, that's a different conversation. But in the world, people travel and they naturalize in different countries all around the world all the time. If they are naturalized living in this country, why would you have an issue with that? Really, why would you? Think about it.
Hi, Ashraf. This is Matlanza from Pretoria. Complaining about this women entering the beauty pageant shows that we're either cowards or petty. Because it's just a competition. And, I don't think it's a big deal, really. There are bigger issues we should be really worried or taking care of right now. We have bigger issues to deal with.
Thanks for that call, Makhlatsi. Well, I'll tell you what, you're right. It's not a big deal where she's come from or a family if she's a naturalized South African. It's not a big deal. But it is a big deal when people think you shouldn't be allowed to compete. That is a big deal because that sends out a completely wrong message that says even the Home Affairs and what they've decided is just wrong. Why? Because people have decided it's wrong. That can't be possible.
Good afternoon, Ashraf. It's Tion Cape Town. Ashraf, regarding this lady from where the South African mother and the Nigeria father, the problem is like people are not aware of the law. That girl, she's a full South African. She's not half South African. She's a full South African. And if you can check anyone DNA, people that are talking, where they're coming from, a lot of people, we all come from product of migration. You see, we are all product of migration. People need to think before they talk. Just because she have a name, sound Nigerian, that she's Nigerian. Okay, even if she's a Nigerian, she got South African citizenship and she become a South African. Why not? People need to stop this thing of hating other people, discriminating other people due to a religion, race, or other things. Tion Cape Town, thank you.
Thank you. Did you say Tio? I think it is. I agree with you. Got that. Let's get further comments on some of the issues from Venezuela to Miss South Africa once again, as well as the loyalty at work issue, right? I think it's Devine in Pretoria. Hello.
How are you, Ashraf?
Yeah, what do I say? Devine? You tell me.
No, Divine.
Okay.
Divine from Pretoria.
All right, got that. Go ahead.
The situation in Venezuela is really a very sad situation because how could you be a player and a referee at the same time? If you can remember, Elvis Amoroso is an ally to the president and he's incumbent. I didn't expect election because the president or the incumbent president was going to win. Remember, he had already inculcated the voters that there will be a bloodbath if he doesn't win. So there's nothing I was expecting. Even if the opposition can put the case to the courts or where, I think the people who are controlling the courts are still allies of the president and they can't rule against him.
Okay, well, let's see what happens, right? I mean, I hear you, allies of the president, but I mean, in no country in the world would something illegitimate continue perpetually. What I'm saying, they may get away with it for a short while, but it's not going to happen forever. It just does not happen. Let's see if I can pick out another caller. I just want to check with Keys to see whether we've got the caller on the line. Right, it's Lou in Durban. Right, hi Lou.
Afternoon, Afshad.
Good afternoon. Good talking to you. Go ahead. Your point.
Yeah. Yes, Afshad, thanks for taking me. I wanted to make this point clear from the first guy who made a comment about culture. And I wanted to make it clear to him because culture is made by the people who live in a certain society. He said there is no South African Nigerian culture. And in my mind, I thought if there was never a South African Nigerian culture, why don't we just try to make it and make it new and make it broad in our country? Because I don't think he should only refer to the lady as not a South African based on the culture, because this country is also not run by the monarchy. It's run by the democracy.
Well, I get you. That's precisely the point that I made earlier on as well, to say a constitution now is the all-important currency or tool that we use. And yes, we all have our own cultures, and there can be norms within the cultures, but the constitution overrides all of that. It does.
Yes, I've been listening. You did make that point, but after that caller, I thought you were going to challenge that guy, because I was not really happy when you're not challenging him about what he said.
I'm not sure which part, but I may have missed it. But I got that. Thank you for that call. Appreciate you giving off your time, Lou. Right, Savage?
Yes, Ashraf.
Yeah, go ahead in Pretoria, right? Your thoughts on work.
With regard to this Miss South African contestant, the mistake we're doing again as South Africans and parliamentarians and all those specialists you have on your radio is that they are quick to dismiss however South African feels about foreigners and things like that so quickly that the anger will always be residual. Instead of there's some anger somewhere, and whether it's opportunistic, they're looking to blow it off somewhere. Cases like this need to be taken advantage of to find where that anger comes from. For example, what I'm saying is that the media has been running with this thing like, not giving facts. Somebody said, whoa, gentlemen, this is what the Constitution says, this is the lady. Let us educate you. And that opportunity would get us and all of, including myself, because I had some students I was boiled up because of lack of facts, saying that, okay, this is whatever, is aspiring Miss South Africa. We can use her as a beacon of cancelling out this thing and merging our cultures and our tradition and our other countries, saying that, ma'am, please come here. So tell them how you are South African and teach them to stop maybe judging people by maybe just a surname or this or that. Then we were going to get answers, because sometimes I don't know, like myself, I heard it somewhere, and just by looking at the surname and what somebody said, because initially somebody said her father is Nigerian, her mother is Mozambican, both are not South African, how can she be? And I got a little bit worked up, now it's blurry. Is she South African? How? Those things, after I got worked up, and to a point, I also communicated with other people how this is not right. But that moment when the thing happened, somebody senior should have said, let's use this opportunity. Because clearly, our anger is not unfounded with the amount of drugs that's put in the street, whether it's foreigners or not. There's still that anger about crimes that we...
Yeah, but there are also crimes being committed by South Africans. I mean, this is the point.
Yes, I know.
So I think if people have anger about foreign nationals who are committing crime, they should be angry. If they're also angry about South Africans committing crime, they should be angry. The fact that they, that's the point.
Yes, Ashraf. And we are trying to, we know human nature is that when I'm angry, I take frustration out. I'm not going to blame myself first. We know that.
All right, so we're going to move on, but I got you. You see, that's the point. We have different narratives. You're saying somebody should come down. Now, who should that somebody be? I would think the somebody's Home Affairs. That's it. To say, hey, Miss South Africa, organizers have said they've cleared her. She's South African. She's a naturalized South African. She's born here, but that's the end of discussion. Why are we still having this conversation? Thank you for that call, Savage. Let's get another one. Sekpilele in Joburg. Hello.
Hi.
Yeah, thanks for calling in.
Yes, Ashraf, there are many things that make me concerned about Miss South Africa. This contestant Ushiki, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
She is a mother and a divorcee. I've been trying to find out what is the criteria really for one to become a contestant. We've never had a candidate, with such a history. And yet those things are not questioned as to really what is the criteria. Yes, South Africans are upset about, her nationality or where the country of origins of her parents. And perhaps, yes, she is suffering from the country branding of these particular countries where her parents come from. But There are other things that we should be asking Miss South Africa to clarify. Do they permit people who have children? Do they permit people who have been married and divorced? And is she going to be able to advance to Miss World and the other pageants that exist? Or will we be wasting our money? In the event that she wins, will the other, organizers give her the same leniency that has been shown?
All right, here's my quick answer on that one. First of all, thanks for calling in. Great that you did that. And again, like the diversity of opinions that come through, right? One, in terms of the rules, and I don't know it, I'm not a part of Miss South Africa, but I do know, I think the rules have been relaxed dramatically so compared to before, right? That means before you had to be unmarried, you had to be a certain age. I believe you can even be now a Mrs. South Africa representing Miss South Africa, whether you had children. Again, I don't know that, but I know that the rules have been relaxed. Definitely so. So that doesn't just apply to her, that applies to everybody else. Now, though your thought with her is this, it's not about that part, because if the rules have been relaxed to allow that, it would be aligned to what happens at Miss World or Miss Universe. I would think so, right? The big question with this contestant is not about whether she's married or not, because that would apply to everybody. It's the fact that she has a heritage that is not pure South African, and that seems to irk many, many people. And that, in my opinion, is problematic.
She was not proudly South African. I think that has been brought up several times, that a person who does not see themselves as a South African and then takes this opportunity because of what it's likely to bring to her, and then after that, when she enters, she suddenly becomes proudly South African, deserves to be questioned and does not need to be in that South African country.
So what happens in a case like Siya Kolisi, who's the captain of the Springboks, and he plays his rugby in France now? You get my point. We can go on the entire day about this. The point is, when they wear the jersey, in this case the Springbok jersey, or represent South Africa, are they committed to the country at that point in time? If they are committed, well, I'm for it, but I'm open to others having a different view. Appreciate your call. We're going to move on. Thank you for that, right? We're going to get an update on the goings-on regarding Pretoria Girls High, and I'll certainly take more comments as well from you after this.
Conversations that you connect with and react to. SAFM.
Right, you may have heard there was a presser today regarding the goings-on at Pretoria Girls High. Remember, that is to do with the WhatsApp group, a whites-only WhatsApp group with a lot of racial or racist comments that emanated from that group, and they be obviously found out. Understand there's been suspensions of learners and now a significant head as well. Let's get the thoughts of Nonhlanhla Chingila, who's the SABC News reporter covering the story. Appreciate you giving up your time. Thanks for joining us.
Hi, how are you?
Very good indeed. Right, so what happened today?
When we got there in the morning, we found the EFF members, ANC, and also Young Economists League, who were protesting outside the school. Apparently, they say the proceedings have been moved to Atterbury, where it happens to be a secret location. And later on, we had a briefing with the MEC, who briefed us as to what happened at the hearing.
Okay, so what happened then at the hearing?
Oh, he says amongst those 12 learners, 8 of them were part of the prefects at the school, and they're all their positions were taken away from them, including their benefits. And also they have suspended the principal of the school because it has been alleged that she has been aware of the allegations but didn't do anything about them.
Okay, so principal suspended, I think it's for only 3 months, right? It's not indefinitely.
Yes.
Right?
Yes,
is the principal then pending a disciplinary hearing as well? Or been found guilty already?
No, that they didn't mention. They only said the principal has been suspended up until the investigations are done. Okay, and the 12 students who also are, many of them student leaders, they've been suspended too, right? Yes. Okay. Did anything else come out of the press conference? Not much, but then they did say that the students, they'll be allowed to write their exams. They'll be allocated a specific space whereby they're going to write their exams if ever this case isn't done yet. Okay. Did, in the media briefing, anything come through in terms of the morale of the school itself? Not really, but then they said that the parents of these kids, they need to teach them discipline before they come to school, because it seems like this thing starts from home before it gets to the school.
Okay. Was anything then put in place to have, further workshops around these issues, both with, maybe parents and learners together, jointly?
Not that we know of.
Okay.
Not that we know of.
Is there anything else you wish to tell us?
Now, for now, let's keep it that way. That's the information that we have.
Appreciate your time, Nontlantla in Chingila, the SABC News reporter, covering the story of the Pretoria Girls' School. So there they are, the principal suspended 3 months because apparently the principal knew about it and did nothing about it. And the 12 learners suspended, many of them part of the student body. School prefects, right? I know the names have changed, so there we are. Here's another comment we've had. Ashraf, hi, to be fair, let me just get this right. To be honest with you, South Africa is not a country, it's just a trade hub. So let's not be confused about what makes one a South African. The fact that we even have a president and a flag means nothing. The president is just an administrator of the trade hub called South Africa from SIPO. Another one, Ashraf, this Ikalafeng guy is talking nonsense. How can you represent a flag that you despise? She only had flags from the two countries close to her heart. Okay, and there's more. In fact, there's a tweet or two that I can pick up on. Let me just see if I can pick up one more call. Okay, there's some voice notes that I want to pick up on around the issue of employees. Remember that we had employee conversation?
Ashraf, imagine you a lovely young loyal employee, and then one day a fellow employee passes away. Somebody you've been working with, maybe let's say you've been there for 3 years, that person has been there for maybe 12. You found them there. This person dies today. You get the news that this person is dead. Senior management that he works with on a daily, everything goes on, meetings go on. There is no even, what do they call it, a moment of silence that is called, no memorial service, nothing. 2 days go on. One of the managers comes, clears out that person's desk, and then puts a graduate there. He makes you question your loyalty. I'm a number, so I guess I should turn them into a check. Thank you.
Okay, well, I'm trying to just imagine the entire scenario. And you now, I know it's not a good scenario at all, so got that. Glenn, by the way, Matoma on tweeting, saying, Ashraf, listening to you on a long drive from Limpopo, now reaching Johannesburg. And there we are. Picture on the dial, locked in, SAFM 105.1. Great that you're doing that. Let's get more on those type of comments. Love to get those pictures, and you can tweet it out. You can also post it on via our WhatsApp comments to 0614 104 107. It's 5 o'clock. Greg Host manning the news desk. Here he is.
Thank you, Ashraf, and good afternoon to you. In this news update, principal suspended at Pretoria High School for Girls, and another child dies after UK stabbing attack. The Gauteng Education MEC Matomi Chilwane suspended the principal of Pretoria High School for Girls. The suspension is for 3 months, during which the department will probe allegations of racism at the school. The MEC says that 8 of the 12 learners suspended for alleged racist comments on a whites-only WhatsApp group were prefects who have since been removed from those positions. He says during the ongoing investigation, new evidence emerged showing similar complaints from last year, where a female learner was allegedly victimized. The MEC briefed the media.
Now, the issue is that the principal stayed on the property. So it doesn't mean that when we've suspended her, then obviously she can take her bags and go home, wherever home is. But if sometimes you see her not in the school property, in the yard that were designated her to stay, just understand that that's where she stayed. Because I know that you might say the principal is at the school premises. No. She's been barred from communicating with learners. She's been barred from communicating with parents. She's been barred from communicating with educators, albeit they speak as friends in the malls, wherever. But in terms of the school processes, she's been suspended up until we conclude. So the suspension is for 3 months.
The Human Rights Commission says it will conduct an investigation into allegations of racism among learners at Pinelands High School in Cape Town. This after a video of black learners allegedly being detained in a cage by fellow coloured learners started circulating online. The video of the black learners who are depicted as being sold on auction as slaves has been described as deeply disturbing and hurtful by the Western Cape Education Department. Human Rights Commissioner Chris Nissen.
When a school was prestigious like that one, at grade 8, when learners come in, what was the orientation with regard to social cohesion and integration? When a school is a knowledge generator, what are they teaching children in that school? How does this reflect society in which we live? What about the family? What is our responsibility of families to ensure that we do the right thing and teach our children the right thing?
The Trade, Industry and Competition Minister Parks Tau says based on meetings with members of the US Congress, AGOA is likely to be extended despite the outcome of the US presidential elections. The meetings took place on the sidelines of the African Growth and Opportunity Act Forum in Washington, D.C., and the BRICS ministers meeting in the Russian capital, Moscow. The AGOA agreement, which provides 35 sub-Saharan countries with duty-free access to the US market, is due to expire next year. Tao says there's also a call to expand the basket of AGOA products.
We engage on a product-by-product basis. Of course, there's a basket of products. If there are other products, as indicated, we are in discussions about. So it is not limited to chicken, stock, poultry. On the scenarios, as indicated, we received broad support from both the Republican Party and the Democratic Party.
Western Cape authorities are calling for a collaborative effort between the community, government and the private sector to combat child trafficking. Today marks World Day Against Trafficking in Persons. The Provincial Minister of Social Development, Yaku Lont, says it is usually vulnerable people living in poverty who are targeted.
Vulnerable people are often trafficked through transportation hubs. Public transport terminals have become hotspots for trafficking activities. Trafficking in persons violates our most fundamental human rights. If you see someone who may be in trouble, please report it to the nearest police station or your local DSD office or call 0800 222 777. We need more partners to join us, especially the private sector, so we may assist more victims.
Police in the UK say a third child has died after being stabbed at a dance workshop in northern England yesterday. The dance class was themed on Taylor Swift's music. A 17-year-old male has been arrested on suspicion of murder. The BBC's Nikki Schiller has more.
Around the world, people take their young children to events like this and parents drop them off and leave them to enjoy a few hours, and that is what happened here yesterday, except a man came in and started stabbing people. 3 young girls have died. There are 5 other children in a critical condition and also 2 adults in a critical condition. The police say that those 2 adults tried to protect the children in their care when the man came in.
Top story, the Gauteng Education MEC has suspended the principal of Pretoria High School for Girls. The suspension is for 3 months, during which the department will probe allegations of racism at the school. That's SAFM News. I'm Greg Gous.
And this is your SFM Sport. I'm Zaika. The South African women's rugby sevens team, they beat Fiji 21-15, finishing 11th at the Olympics. And Vincent Legoni finishes 12th at the BMX Freestyle. Stay tuned. We'll bring you the details at around 5:30.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Good afternoon. Starting off in Gauteng, the M1 southbound in central Johannesburg is queuing towards Crown Interchange. The M1 northbound in Sandton has a crash before Grayston Drive. The R21 southbound in Kempton Park has a crash before the R23 Benoni exit in Midrand. The N1 southbound has a crash at Buccleuch Interchange. The N1 northbound is slow moving towards Samrand Road, and the N1 northbound has a crash before Allendale Road. In KZN, the N3 eastbound has a crash near the Pavilion Shopping Centre exit. The M13 eastbound in Pinetown as roadworks with traffic restrictions at the N3 Paradise Valley interchange. The N3 is roadworks with major upgrade works between Spaghetti Junction and the M13 Paradise Valley interchange, and Bayard Road has truck congestion at South Coast Road. In Cape Town, the M3 southbound is slow moving towards Rhodes Drive. The N7 Jakes Havel Drive southbound is slow moving at Voortrekker Road. The N1 outbound is slow moving towards Okavango Road exit. The M5 southbound slow moving towards Racecourse Road, and the N2 Nelson Mandela Boulevard outbound is queuing towards Hospital Bend. With your traffic update, I'm Irma G.
SAFM 104 to 107 nationwide. Leading the conversation.
Channel more reasons to feel encouraged on Afternoon Express, Tuesday at 6 p.m. on S3, as Councillor Sadia Southgate shares how mental health support helps us see a brighter day. Making sense of food labels gets us eating right. Chef Dumi and Jay make a whipped feta and grilled lamb flatbread. That's Afternoon Express, this Tuesday at 6 p.m. only on S3. Repeat Sundays at 8:30 a.m.
Attention ladies, join us on Saturday, August 17th, 2024 for the Star Choices Yours Women's Day event at Altitude Fourways, a day dedicated to empowerment, inspiration and transformation. Engage with dynamic speakers, attend interactive conversations and connect with amazing women just like you. The event will be hosted by the fabulous Unatingai. Don't miss out on this opportunity to celebrate and elevate yourself. Get your tickets now at www.quicket.co.za for 550 Rand, drinks, food and a gift bag included. Plus, stand a chance to win an honor product. This incredible event is powered by independent media and the Honor 200 series.
It's going to be a hot women's hockey battle between South Africa and Great Britain in Pool B. Mzansi Africa's plans are to fight hard from the first whistle to the end. But their opponents, GBR, believe they will deliver a touch of great class. This is the Olympic Games Paris 2024. South Africa tackles Great Britain on Wednesday, 31 July at 10:30 a.m. Live on SABC Sport on DTT Channel 4 and reports on SABC radio stations. Also available on SABC Plus and SABCSport.com. SABC Sport is the proud broadcaster of the Olympic Games Paris 2024. Hashtag the global battle of great athletes.
For the love of the game.
The National Pulse with Ashraf Garda on SAFM. You're listening to the National Pulse, weekdays 3 to 6 p.m.
Tell you what, when I was in Cape Town last week, I had like 2 or 3 people whose cars I was in, and they all were locked in, the dial locked into SAFM. Like, great, thumbs up, absolutely. It's the same with Mike now, listening from Bethel. So, Mike, I see your picture. You've WhatsApped. Great that you've done that. Thank you very much. Bethel, I know it's a very, very cold place, isn't it? Hope it's much warmer now. But thank you for listening in. That's great that you've done that. And by the way, others as well. I mean, you can WhatsApp us, but you can also take the same picture and you can post it. Just tag SAFM Radio, particularly on the Twitter or X platform, and then tag me, Ashraf Garda. I will gladly pick it up and we'll certainly share that as well. And here's Johan's got a picture from Barberton to Mbombela. What a gorgeous, well, I can see the dial locked into SAFM. If you don't mind, I'm looking at the sunset. What a sunset, man. No, I need to get Mvusi to post it as well, because those are just stunning, stunning pictures. Yeah, wow. Love the fact that, again, we have representation around the country. From wherever you are, we talk to you and you talk to me, and that's just fantastic. You know the numbers, 0614 104 107, WhatsApp to call in, 086 000 2032. Right, we chatted earlier on about the issue of the safety of teachers in schools and what happens. Remember, we made reference to what happened in KZN with the Pikiswayo Primary School, where a teacher was shot dead. That was preschool, I understand, or grade R it was. And, you know, these guys just walked in. The learners were there and that's it. Shot, end of story. Done. How horrific is that, right? It certainly begs the question about other issues around just overall safety around teachers or learners as well at school. So let's get the thoughts of Elijah Mashlanga, the Department of Basic Education spokesperson. Elijah, we last met in a plane from Cape Town to Joburg. Hello.
Good afternoon, Ashraf. Thank you very much. Yes, we did.
Yeah, good talking to you. Right. Okay, let's get to the serious issues now. I mean, this is a troublesome, recurring issue, isn't it? What's the department's position on this?
Ashraf, perhaps we should start by conveying our condolences to the affected families. You know, the KZN Education Department issued a statement today indicating that a learner was stabbed to death yesterday, and a teacher was also gunned down and was killed yesterday, and another learner also died, I think, last week. So all of these tragedies are happening at the same time in our schools. So it's troubling. It's something that we shouldn't be talking about in the manner that we're doing, because when you read, one of these incidents took place inside a classroom where a stabbing took place, but a teacher was also shot dead within the school premises. So you can see that nobody is safe anywhere. The question is, what can we do about it? It's a difficult question, because these things, they happen among the people who are naturally supposed to be working together. And it becomes complex, therefore, because we expect that our communities will take the first responsibility of protecting each other against these matters of...
So what then can be done about it? I mean, we chatted to the spokesperson from Pop Crew, and they said they put together a series of recommendations in terms of their concerns, right? And they were concerned even from a teaching point and just around other issues around policing, but the same could apply to your side, right? What more can be done? Because I'm just concerned we could be talking about this all the time.
Yeah, so in terms of the school safety framework, we are supposed to be working together. Parents are supposed to be working together with teachers, and through the school governing bodies, communities are supposed to be in a very strong partnership where we talk to each other about what we can do to protect our school communities from violence, but also the police, the justice system. We need a network of organizations and people that will ensure that we create an environment where criminals know that if they do something like this, they will be caught, and that good examples will be made of them.
So how then do we create that environment? Because at this point in time, we know, you and I know, that criminals know that the odds favor them, sadly, isn't it?
You're right, but you see, the reason I say it's complex, let me give you two scenarios. The one in Mpumalanga, I think last year, a teacher was shot dead by her own husband within a school during school hours in full view of the learners. So normally that person would be known to everyone, and there wouldn't be an expectation that something like that will happen. Then you have another situation in Tembisa where a deputy principal was shot dead outside the school, where the criminals waited for that teacher to leave school. In that situation, what do you do? That's when we really need members of the society to say, we saw those people, we saw their car, we saw where they went to, let's give the information to the police. In fact, we think we know who they are, we are going to cooperate with the police. So if nothing happens and you go for a month, 2, 3, until a year passes with no arrest being made, that's when other criminals think that nobody cares, so they can do as they please. So where you find domestic matters spilling over into a school, it's a difficult one. But you also find others where learners are stabbing each other, which means they are able to sneak into the school with weapons. Yes, we do conduct searches together with the police, but you are not able to prevent these matters every day, because you can't conduct these searches every day. The police have to be in other places. So there's a matter of capacity. But at the end of the day, is the behavior of the people that we really need to target, because for as long as people think violence is the only way of resolving conflict, we will see more of these things.
Okay, so the issue of violence as the only way to resolve a conflict, I mean, is a far bigger issue than the Department of Basic Education can deal with. I understand that, right? But the issue of, I hear the issue of, like a partner or a spouse, and that's very, very difficult, right? But at this point in time, since you can't decide what people will do, what then are the basic checks and balances around security at all schools nationwide?
So we have a partnership with the police. We have identified this particular need as far back as 10 years ago, where we entered into a partnership that will link police to schools so that police are able to do patrols within the areas where schools are located. But we've also made sure that when we train our SGB members who are elected to be governors in schools, each one must establish a safety committee which will look after the interest of the school in terms of providing reasonable security in that school. But you are not able to provide for security in 24,700 schools because it becomes too much of a cost. That's why we believe that if we were to start with behavior change, which we do, by the way, through the curriculum, life orientation, life skills, we believe that we are making an impact in some way in that regard. But there has to be a partnership between what is taking place in the school and what's taking place in the home. But when these young people wait for each other outside the school and they shoot each other or stab each other, it's difficult. It becomes a matter for the entire community to take care of.
Is it an issue that, and maybe you're doing it already, in terms of a partnership with, community development or other relevant department or organization?
Yes, we do. In fact, if you were to look at our school safety framework, it identifies about 11 different or more stakeholders that should take part: Department of Social Development, NGOs, Department of Justice, the police, individual school governing bodies, and school principals, parents themselves, and the learners themselves, the learner formations themselves, and other organizations. So everyone has to really take part. And if one stakeholder is weak in the chain, that's where the gap opens and the criminals or bad behavior then creeps in and then it messes everything up. So we really need to find a way to work together on this one. Otherwise, every time a tragedy like this one takes place, we'll just have a conversation and move on.
I know, and that's what's happening right now. So hopefully you'll have some better news for us in a few months' time. Just hold it. This is what we've done. There's a dramatic change, and this is why, and it's foolproof. And because of X, Y, Z. Let's hope that'll happen. Elijah, before I let you go, just your quick thoughts on two other topical issues, right? And to deal with issues about racism. One is the issue of the Pretoria High School story in terms of the whites-only WhatsApp group, right? And the other regarding the school in Cape Town, right? Pinelands, I think it was, regarding the issue of the slavery auction, right? What's your, I know they're being investigated, there's been some suspensions, but overall, what's your pronouncement on this issue?
No, these are actually concerning matters as well. When I was in Cape Town last week, I saw the two newspapers in Cape Town had two different headlines about related matters, but from two different schools. And when we looked at this, we asked ourselves as to what is going on, because there are these issues of racism raising their ugly heads yet again. And we looked into what the department in the Western Cape is doing. We found that there was some action that was being taken, just like it's happening here in Pretoria today. The NEC was at Pretoria Girls High, where the principal has been suspended. And the third thing is that I was personally involved in the 2016 matter there, where we came with an intervention that there would be diversity training and that there would be an intervention. But not so long after that, you have the same thing happening yet again, and you ask yourself, so that intervention that was put there and was done and everyone was taken through the process, it means it didn't help, which means some of the solutions that we are putting in place to try to resolve these matters don't really help. People, even when you try to change their heart and minds and their attitude and prejudices about other people, it still doesn't work.
So what do you think then needs to happen next there on that issue? Because it does need a massive change of consciousness and attitude across the board.
It does. So maybe we also need to look at changing the people and take them to other places which will challenge them in terms of the way they think about life and the way they approach life itself. Because when they are in one place, they become complacent and they start doing other things that they were not supposed to be doing. But I'm glad that the Mete Leadership Institute is going to intervene there and provide some training programs that will have to be done better than what we did there previously.
Would that be for both schools, Pretoria as well as Pinelands, or just Pretoria?
No, right across the system, because these are systemic issues. I mean, if you have something that is happening here, in fact, there's a meeting of the minister and the NEC which is coming up in August. These matters are going to be discussed there. We need a sector response. So you can't have an isolated you can't have.
Okay, well, I'm glad to hear that.
we need a wide.
I'm glad to hear that is something we spoke about yesterday. I think it needs a nationwide response to prick on the consciousness of people and get their understanding of what they can and can't say and what they can and can't feel and how they need to feel about issues that impacts the national psyche. Elijah Mhlanga, appreciate your time. Spokesperson for the Department of Basic Education. We'll probably see you next on a plane sometime soon.
What is Ushuni, you say? Ushuni has a musical gift and can transform a song. Ushuni can fuse folk music with a popular urban beat or tune. Ushuni can take us on a beautiful musical journey. Ushuni way to Gelo. Join us in unearthing South Africa's next folk music star. 40 talented contestants from around South Africa competing for the ultimate grand prize of 500,000 Rand cash and a recording deal. Angeke basikhone with Ushuni Womhlaba, starting 7 July, Sundays at 6 p.m. only on SABC1.
Some records do not like that they can be broken until they are broken. The world experienced the Mzansi vibes in Rio de Janeiro. Akani Simbine became the first South African to qualify for the men's 100-meter final since 1932. While the sprinter wasn't able to obtain a medal, his performance created another historic moment for South African athletics. He ran a phenomenal race and finished 5th in a battle with the likes of Jamaica's Johan Blake and Canada's Andre de Grasse. Simbine proved he could run with the greats like Usain Bolt and Justin Gatlin and made South Africa proud by qualifying for the men's 100-meter final for the first time since Danny Hubert in 1932. Magical moments of the Olympics. Brought to you by SABC Sport, proud broadcaster of the Olympic Games Paris 2024.
For the love of the game.
X at SFM Radio and at Ashraf Garda.
Here's another comment. Hello, SFM, the National Pulse. There was a white lady from Portuguese and Angolan descent who once represented South Africa at the Miss Universe, but the country was mum because she was white. I don't know if they were mum, but certainly some people were mum, and maybe some people making a noise now. It's not the whole country making a noise. But I'll tell you what, we need to get the next step here, besides the minister, because he's already pronounced on it to a degree, Gayton McKenzie, and Tebe Kalafeng said he'll meet him, he's going to bump into him at an event today. We need to get the Miss South Africa organisers on board in terms of where they see this, because my understanding is they've cleared the issue. They've cleared it. Clearly, they've checked out who's eligible. They wouldn't allow this thing to continue that long without checking it out in the first place, because that's reputational damage. We're talking about reputational damage. What about judges in Gauteng and the way they do their business, right? Now, the Gauteng Judge President, Dunstan Malambo, says the case loads of judges in Gauteng are heavier than anywhere else in the country, meaning they do more work. This has a negative impact on the performance of the courts. Okay, we got that. The high volume of cases, coupled with limited resources, has led to an overwhelming backlog of cases. So is it too much work, too few judges? What needs to happen? Mbekazeli Benjamin is the Research and Advocacy Officer, in this case, for Judges Matter. Appreciate your time as always. Thanks for joining us.
Good afternoon, Ashraf. It's a pleasure to be on.
Right, so do I understand what's it? Too much work for too few judges, right?
Yes, that is the situation. There's just too much work and too few judges. And in fact, we have not seen an increase in the number of judges in Gauteng and in many parts of the country for more than 15 years. And so we know over the last 15 years, our population has grown. The Stats SA announced today that there are now 63 million people in South Africa, and that is more than the 62 million or even the less than 60 million that existed 15 years ago. So we are facing a bit of a crisis in Gauteng, but in courts across the country. There's just the judiciary is too small to deal with the size of the population of South Africa.
Okay, so why is the judiciary too small? I mean, why have they not done the obvious, knowing it compromises their work?
Well, the obvious is that we should be increasing the number of judges, but unfortunately, because of a number of factors, including the budget allocations, it hasn't happened. Of course, over the last couple of years, there have been cuts to the budget that has been allocated to the courts, and that has also gone alongside the lack of an increase in the number of judges, but also in the salaries paid to judges. So it is a number of factors that are contributing to this. And yes, there is work being done now, I must say. There is work being done by the Department of Justice, which has appointed a committee that is chaired by retired Deputy Chief Justice Moseneke to study how many more judges we need and to recommend an exact number. But the problem is that we can't wait for that process to finalize. As we speak today, for you to get a trial date in the Gauteng High Court, in the Pretoria High Court, the earliest that you can get a trial date is in January of 2029, 5 years from now. So it is a crisis that needs immediate steps to be taken.
And do you have any sense that immediate steps will be taken, are being talked about to be taken?
Unfortunately, immediate steps are not yet being spoken about publicly. We understand that, for example, organizations like the Pretoria Attorneys Association have raised this issue. We have heard from the Deputy Judge President of the Johannesburg High Court. He's also raised the issue. Last week, we heard from Judge President Mlambo raising the issue, but we haven't yet heard from the Ministry of Justice on what exactly is being done to deal with the situation in the interim. I must also add that the legal profession, many members of the legal profession, senior advocates and attorneys, have made themselves available to work for free as acting judges. But of course, that is not sustainable, and it is also not good for the long-term independence of the judiciary. So it can help in the short run, but it is not sustainable. We need a more sustainable measure, which includes just the appointment of more judges.
So would you say that the judge allocation, the shortfall, is it primarily because of budget, so there's no money to pay these new judges, or is it because of a lack of expertise coming through the ranks from the legal fraternity into being judges? That means there's a lack of quality coming through. Where's the problem? Or is it both?
Well, quality is definitely not a problem. Like I said, there are many senior lawyers who are making themselves available to be acting judges, and that is a stopgap measure. The big problem is the money problem, Ashraf. We need money to be allocated to the judiciary that is commensurate with the mandate that the judiciary has, which is to deliver justice to South Africans. We need a budget for more judges, for more courts, more researchers, and more support staff to those judges. Because let's make an example of the Labour Court. The Labour Court has 13 judges to serve the entire country. There are judges, those 13 judges must carry the full load of every labour case that comes before the court. And that means if you are retrenched as a worker, you will inevitably face a delay just because we don't have enough judges. We also don't have enough courtrooms for the Labour Court to sit. There are only a few courtrooms in Johannesburg, Durban, Cape Town, and Gqeberha, of course. And those are not enough for the kind of labour cases that we are seeing in our courts, especially in the current economic climate where we're seeing more and more retrenchments and more labour disputes.
In the meantime, we get a 5-year waiting period for a trial date. I mean, that's just crazy. Thank you for your time. Thanks for raising this issue. And the question is, what happens next? Because in this case, like many others, the issue around the judiciary is compromised. And you know what that means. What do you, as a person living in South Africa, feel about just that? Imbekazeli Benjamin, Research and Advocacy Officer for Judges Matter. How do we resolve the judges issue if we have no money? We just have, just carry on with their work, do less work, just slow pace, that's it, or what, right? Welcome your suggestions on that issue. You can WhatsApp right away, 0614104107. Like the fact that many people are tweeting as well. Please do that, right? Hashtag The National Pulse, tag SAFM Radio, tag me as well. Let's get the news headlines now. It's 5:30. Here's Greg Hose.
In the headlines, the Gauteng Education MEC has suspended the principal of Pretoria High School for Girls, during which the department will probe allegations of racism at the school. Fears over safety and security has led to some parents keeping their children from school at a primary school at Ntazuma in KZN following the murder of a teacher there. And police in the UK say a third child has died after being stabbed at a dance class in northern England. There's a full update at the top of the hour.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Good afternoon. Starting off in Gauteng, the N3 southbound in Germiston is queuing towards Geldnest interchange. In Midrand, the N1 southbound has a crash at Buccleuch interchange, and the N1 northbound has a crash reported before Allendale Road. In Pretoria, the N4 eastbound has a stationary truck before Simon Vermooten Road. SK Mpahleli Drive northbound has delays towards Mood Street, and Mabopane Highway northbound has delays towards Theo Martins. In KZN, the N3 eastbound has a crash near the Pavilion Shopping Centre exit reported. The N3 westbound is slow moving towards Spaghetti Junction. Bayard Road has truck congestion reported between South Coast Road and Langeberg Road, and Chris Hani Road westbound is queuing at the N2 highway. In Cape Town, in Observatory Main Road southbound slow moving towards the N2 highway, and Liesberg Parkway southbound slow moving towards the N2 highway. Victoria Road outbound is slow moving through Woodstock, and Albert Road outbound is slow moving through Woodstock. With your traffic update, I'm Irma G.
This is SAFM Sport with Zai Khan.
Thank you very much. Let's start with the South African women's rugby teams. They've secured a hard-fought victory over Fiji, finishing in 11th place at the Olympics. The match ended with a score of 21-15 in favour of South Africa. Key players such as Maria Shiremba, Mariska Grain, Nadine Roos, Ayanda Malinga, Libby Janssen van Rensburg and Zintle Mapupa playing pivotal roles in the win. Meanwhile, Canada, they've produced a shock win over Australia, winning 21-12 to reach the Women's Rugby Sevens final. They will meet New Zealand in the final later tonight, where the Black Ferns are the current Olympic champions. Now, South Africa's BMX freestyle cyclist Vincent Legoni finished 12th overall at the Olympics. Despite a strong effort, Legoni failed to qualify for the final round, scoring 73.2 and 78.5 to average 75.85. Now, competing against tough international contenders, Legoni from Krugersdorp showed remarkable skills and determination. Even though he didn't make it to the finals, his performance was a proud moment for South Africa in the BMX freestyle discipline. Now, Olympic tennis action. The American star Coco Gauff claims she was cheated and had a heated argument with the chair umpire after being eliminated from the women's singles. Gauff was defeated by Donna Vekic 7-6, 6-2 in the third round at Roland Garros. The controversy arose when a line call was overturned, awarding a crucial point to Vekic. Gauff in tears protested, stating the call affected her play. Despite the setback, Gauff remains in the hunt for an Olympic medal in the women's doubles with Jessica Pegula and mixed doubles with Taylor Fritz. Now, a heat wave has hit Paris, where high temperatures are not only the health hazard facing athletes and spectators at the Olympic Games. With the hot weather settling in, it has created an condition for ground level ozone, a type of air pollution that's harmful to humans and the environment. It can particularly affect people with respiratory conditions, including asthma. High levels of ground-level ozone are forecast across much of Europe between now and the 4th of August, especially for the Paris region, according to the Copernicus Atmosphere Monitoring Service. Now, this could exceed limits set by European air quality legislation. And finally, candidate hosts of the 2030 and 2034 World Cups for soccer have submitted their bid books to FIFA. The FIFA President Gianni Infantino confirming plans have been handed over by FA presidents of the 2030 main hosts. Morocco, Spain, Portugal, as well as Argentina, Paraguay and Uruguay are lined up to stage the opening 3 games of the tournament to commemorate the 100th anniversary of the World Cup. Now, Saudi Arabia have also submitted their bid book and supporting documents for the 2034 edition of the finals. That's how we wrap up sport on the National Pulse. I'm Zai Khan.
So before I let you go, so we've got 3 medals, right, this year. We got 3 in the previous Olympics. The big question is, how many will we end up getting? Like, seriously, are there prospects?
prospects. I mean, 3. Previously it was 3. We're already on 3. Can we double it at least?
Yeah, but my question is where's it going to come from, if anything?
Swimming, perhaps, is where we're all putting our money on at the moment. So the medal count for South Africa, I predict, will come from there.
And we'll end up with?
6.
Okay.
And you?
I don't know. That's why I'm asking you. I mean, really, if I was that clever, I would answer it myself.
This is a crystal ball question. You know this, Ashraf.
No, I don't do crystal balls. I just ask questions. Okay?
No,
3 will double up to 6. I hope that happens. And I wish there was even more. But anyway, we'll be okay with 6. I wish there was something on the track. Well, yeah, track and field will happen, maybe. All right, we'll chat tomorrow or whenever else. You're going to be on air tomorrow morning, I know that, right?
Yep.
With what is called SAFM Breakfast now, not SAFM Sunrise, name change.
Yeah.
Thanks, enjoy.
Thank you.
Right, yeah, bye-bye.
Bye.
Economic news on SAFM. Facts and figures you can count on.
Right, let's get to the markets now with the MoneyWeb market update, as always, with Jimmy Moya. Hi, Jimmy, big stories today?
Good evening, Ashraf. Yes, big stories today. We're taking a look at some developments on the continent, some developments in South Africa. So we're going to be looking at the decision by Total Energies to walk away from the gas exploration projects that they've had going on in the Western Cape. Those gas projects, or the projects, are worth north of 3 billion rand, or $3 billion, sorry, and Total's already invested more than $400 million into those projects, and they're walking away because the regulatory constraints no longer make it commercially viable. So we're going to look into that and understand what that means for the developments in that region. And then we've also got a conversation with Wandile Sihlobo as part of our Agri segment on this Tuesday around what's happening between Botswana, Namibia and South Africa. We are under the same customs union, but it seems Botswana and Namibia have taken a stance to extend their 2-year ban on South African vegetable imports, and that's having a disastrous impact on our farmers exporting into the region. So we're going to look at that. We're going to see whether it's going to start a trade war, whether or not we can get around this in a diplomatic manner. And then we've got a conversation with John Dalton at Lula around securing your digital transactions as a small business. Obviously, when small businesses deal in online transactions, it is quite important that those transactions go through as they are intended to. So we're going to look at that and try and unpack what's happening there. And then we've got a very special conversation on entrepreneurship, sustainability and legacy with Jonathan Oppenheimer of the Oppenheimer family and of Oppenheimer Generations. So we're going to unpack his thoughts on entrepreneurship as well as sustainability and building a legacy, given the legacy that he comes from. So quite an intense show coming up. But before we get to that, the markets have been moving throughout the day. There have been very interesting movements when we look at some of the counters that have been moving. And I'm joined on the line by Henku Creer, as always, who keeps an eye on the markets for us to tell us what's been happening throughout the day. Good evening, Henku. Thanks, as always, for keeping an eye on the markets. What's been happening in the movements throughout the day?
Hello, Jimmy, Ashraf and Tumi, and good evening to all of our listeners. Let's start by looking at what's going down in the US. The S&P 500 is down 0.6% at the moment. The Nasdaq trading 1% weaker, but the Dow Jones in the green and trading 0.1% stronger. In Europe, the FTSE 100 finished 0.1% down today. The DAX gained 0.6%, and that was a similar picture for the CAC 40 in France, also finishing 0.6% stronger. And here by us, the JSE's All-Share Index, it closed in the green, 0.2% stronger today at a level of 81,199 points. The Industrial Index finished the day 0.6% up. The Financial Index 0.8% stronger, but the Resources Index took a little bit of a dive and it finished 1% weaker today. Tungela didn't have a good day. It finished 4.5% weaker. Kumba and Exaro, they each lost 3%. Mondi, as well as SAPI, as well as PSG Financial Services, they each lost 2% at the end of the day. On the positive side of things, Telkom and Harmony, they each gained 2.5% today. Woolies, Old Mutual and Netcare finished the day 2% stronger. And the Life Healthcare Group, Remgro, they each finished 1.8% up. Among the 10 largest companies on our stock exchange, and this is the reason for that Resources Index taking a little bit of a tumble, Anglo, which lost 4% at the end of the day, Glencore 3.5% down, and BHP finished the day 2.5% weaker. Then we move over to the to the exchange rate at the moment, 18 Rand 34 cents to the US dollar, 19 Rand 80 to the euro, 11 Rand 99 for an Australian dollar, and 23 Rand and 50 cents for a British pound. And on the commodities market, the price of gold is $2,387 an ounce, silver is $28, platinum $960, and palladium trading at $870 an ounce. The oil price is $78.10 a barrel. And then, lastly but not least, the price of a Bitcoin, $66,400, and that is 1,230,000 Rand. And Jimmy, that's how the markets performed.
Thank you very much for that update, Henku. We're going to be looking at these and other developments a little later on when we return. But for now, Ashraf, back to you and the team.
Right.
Okay. So what do we have here? A new dub telenovela on S3? The last one was absolutely amazing. So let's see what this one's about. Paloma. A seamstress and single mother receives the wrong test results and finds out that she only has 6 months to live. Interesting. She decides to live her best life and do things that she never had the courage to do. Understandable. Paloma unexpectedly finds love from a stranger she slept with. I see. She finds out that she received the wrong results and decides to meet the man who actually has 6 months to live? Wait, what? And right there, I know I'm hooked. Channel your inner drama with Bomb Successful, A Life Worth Living. Weekdays at 4:30 p.m. only on S3. Open up.
S3. At Specsavers, we're committed to offering affordable and professional eye care. That's why we're offering 1,500 Rand worth of savings with our winter promotion. Get a free frame up to the value of 1,500 Rand or use the 1,500 Rand on one of our leading lens enhancements. To qualify, simply purchase a comprehensive eye examination and prescription frame and lenses. Book online or call your nearest store today. Specsavers for affordable eye care and a whole lot more. T's and C's apply.
A century is full of thrilling moments. You can break it down to 10 decades. It is a journey of all kinds of challenges, but winners don't focus on the storm. They look forward to a rainbow. By contrast, South Africa tied its best ever gold medal performance in 100 years. From 1912 in Stockholm to London in 2012. Once again, it was in the pool that Team SA did most of their triumphing, with Cameron van der Berg setting a world record in winning the men's 100-meter breaststroke. And who will ever forget Chad de Clos toppling Michael Phelps in the men's 200-meter butterfly?
It's going to be close. Does he touch? He doesn't. Leclos touched because Phelps got it wrong on the line. It's unbelievable.
Magical moments of the Olympics. Brought to you by SABC Sport, proud broadcaster of the Olympic Games Paris 2024.
For the love of the game.
Ashraf Garda on SAFM.
Well, lots more to come. Remember, listen to Zai and the team on what is now called SAFM breakfast tomorrow morning. But before that, there's sport following the business show that we spoke about already, and then of course the Viewpoint happens tonight, which is hosted by Nkaba Mabete, and you know that he's got the CEO of Agri-CETA, that's Dr. Innocent Seroba, will be doing the Tuesday takeover, and part of that, the guest will be the Minister of Higher Education and Training, that's Dr. Nabutle Mkabani. You should be listening out for that, looking forward to that. Then followed after all of that, 10 o'clock, it's Oliver Dixon who takes over from 10 to midnight. So everything to keep, well, in this case, your fingers on the pulse, isn't it? Let's get to your thoughts on some of the issues we've been talking about. I can see clearly, every day we ask this question, what for you moves the national pulse? And we have our expectations, and then you have yours, and then the reality comes through. And today on this show, it's clearly Miss South Africa. KD has the thought. Hi.
Hello, Ashraf.
Yeah. Good to talk to you, KD. Go ahead, your point.
My point is that we should not allow to come on public platforms like this and try to justify, it.
Well, Katie, we can't hear you. I'm so sorry. This line is really bad. I'd love to have heard what you said. Just can't pick it up. My apology for that. If you can call back or maybe send a WhatsApp voice note, maybe we'll take your call. Impo in Randfontein. Hello, Impo.
Good evening, my brother. How are you?
I'm very good indeed, right? Go ahead. What's your point?
No, my point is that it should not matter how you want to see yourself. If the lady sees herself as South African, and whether the parents are from somewhere, human beings are generally in movement across the world. There are people who have won things when they are staying, have citizenship of other countries, but because they were born in South Africa, they will still say we're South African. So birth should not be determined by who's your father or mother. It's about where you prefer to stay.
Yeah. Got that, Impo. Again, your line's disappearing, but I got the gist of what you're saying, to say, the parents can't determine what your citizenship would be wherever you reside and find. And movement of people is a fact that has happened since the beginning of time. Victor in Woodbank, hi.
Good afternoon, Ashraf.
Yeah, good afternoon. Go ahead, Victor. What's your point?
My point is I want to take South Africans firstly to the 2008 USA elections, where all South Africans, especially African South Africans, were celebrating the appointment of Barack Obama as the first black USA leader, whose father is Kenyan, born in Kenya. But we are quick to forget that when he was appointed in USA, in a largely white country, we were celebrating. And now we've got a black African who was born in South Africa by a Nigerian and a Mozambican mother, and now we're going to be complaining about that. It is quite a hypocritical approach to look at things in this way. And I want to encourage South Africans to like other African people. I can assure you, if it was a person of a non-African origin who joined me in South Africa, we were not going to be complaining if she was proceeding as well as Chidima is doing. So I want to encourage South Africans to look at Africans in a good perspective and be positive about each other. It's really sad when Africans continue to destroy each other in every space of life. Politics, now in the pageant, and everywhere you look, we're just continuously destroying each other. Thank you.
Okay, got that. I did say yesterday, I'll give people a clap when I really like what they're saying. I don't necessarily agree about the white part. I think, in my opinion, anybody who's South African, if they naturalized or what, I would support them. Really, I would. But your point overall, like the Barack Obama example, I think is absolutely spot on. Words of wisdom there. You're 100% right. And then following that, why would we spend our time trying to destroy people when we need everybody to be part of, what is called Team South Africa? We really need as many people to contribute to the upliftment of our country. And here we are discounting people on the basis of we think that they like other countries more. We think their genes are more Nigerian or Mozambican. Their hearts are there. Really, they're living in this country. They're contributing to this country right now. That's why I always felt, for me, a South African, is not even what the ID says about that, but if you are living in this country, even if you're an American or a Moroccan and you're living in this country now, for the period you're living here, even if it's temporary, for 5 years, in my opinion, well, you're contributing to this country. I would regard you as a South African, even for that short-term period. Thanks for that call, Victor. And the comments continue. Here's one about Siyakolisi.
Good evening, Ashraf. I think with the with the example of Siyakolisi, I don't think his example is relevant to this matter because I'm not sure if he's representing the country that side. If he's playing for a team, then it's different from this issue because now this is a national issue that we're talking about. Thank you. Yeah.
I mean, I brought it up, but yes, he's not representing France, but he is representing a French club, and when he does well for France, then for the French club rather, he does elevate France at that point in time, like the same way if we have the Stormers or the Bulls who do well for us in these various rugby championships, we also elevate the country. So think about that, right? Here's another one, South Africa in Nigeria.
Good afternoon, SAFM and listeners. Good afternoon, Ashraf. I'm not condoning what people say about this contestant, but maybe there are questions that we need to ask ourselves. If there is a South African a girl who's born in Nigeria, but the parents are not Nigerian, can Nigerian accept her to represent them in a beauty pageant? That's a question you can ask. Because now sometimes people they are opportunistic. For instance, Nigerians in South Africa, they don't want to be regarded as South Africans. They are Nigerians. But when an opportunity comes that will benefit them, they want to be treated like South Africans. So I'm not saying it's right or wrong, but we need to look at that context as well. Sharp.
Well, I hear you, but you see, again, you can't say everybody. You see, yes, you get people who are Nigerians or not South African nationals. They haven't taken out citizenship. Like you can get South Africans living in London who vote in our elections because they feel that they're committed to this country in whichever way, right? That happens across the world. But when a person then takes out South African citizenship or becomes naturalized and then they stand up and they're committed to wanting to be with their country, then why would we discard them? Why would we not just welcome them? I mean, and this has got nothing to do with Nigerian. It could be a Spaniard for I would do the same thing. Okay, let's talk about the churches, and they join the call for a very important issue, the basic income grant.
The Market Update, Monday to Thursday, 6 to 7 p.m.
Want to stay ahead of the financial game? Join us tonight from 6 to 7 p.m. for an insightful journey through the day's market developments, financial updates, and investment news. Tune in for your daily dose of financial intelligence as we navigate the twists and turns of the financial landscape with expert insights. Only on the SAFM Market Update.
SAFM Market Update with Jimmy Muyaha.
SAFM has signed a code of conduct that is enforced by the Broadcasting Complaints Commission of South Africa. Under the code, we are committed to giving news that is accurate, comment that is fair, and programming that is not harmful, does not amount to hate speech, or contain violence or explicit sex. If you think we are not living up to that code, then you can inform the Broadcasting Complaints Commission of South Africa. Direct any complaints in writing to the Broadcasting Complaints Commission of South Africa. PO Box 142365. Craig Hall 2024. Fax to 011-326-3198 or an email to bccsa@nabsa.co.za. For more information, please visit www.bccsa.co.za.
Ashraf Garda on SAFM.
Right, you know that's the IEJ, the Institute for Economic Justice. They've been a major driver of the implementation of a universal basic income grant. That's the UBIG, right? Well, now many churches, in fact, I believe hundreds of churches have joined civil society's call for the Social Relief of Distress grant to be made permanent and then becoming a universal basic income grant. So at an event hosted in Woodstock in Cape Town last week, the churches got together. They are part of this World Communion of Reformed Churches, and they've pledged to urge the government to implement that UBIG that we talk about, UBIG. Let's find out more about this with Reverend Dr. Bukelwa Hans. Appreciate your time, Reverend. Thanks for your time.
Good evening, Ashraf, and good evening to your listeners.
Thanks
for having me.
So your call to urge government to adopt the universal basic income grant, why? Why is it that important?
Well, firstly, Ashraf, we know that South Africa has got a triple challenge: poverty, unemployment, and inequality. And poverty has been growing worse. And since the pandemic in 2020, when the SRD grant was implemented, it made a difference how little it was to people's lives where we are as churches on the ground. And so we're advocating for that, saying the SRD grant has made a difference in people's lives, and therefore would advocate as churches together with civil society that it be made permanent, but also it be increased to the food poverty level.
And that would be how much?
The food poverty level at the moment, as we speak, is 760. That is the lower bound food poverty line, 760. So at least 760 minimum.
Okay. How would this grant that you refer to compare to any other grants that we may be aware of?
Well, the other grant, the child support grant, as you know, is before 18 years. And the old age pension is above 50 years. And then there's a grant for people living with disabilities. But the able-bodied person between 18 and 59 aren't getting anything. And they are many of the part of the poverty-stricken people in South Africa. So the bigger percentage of our population is in that bracket and are very poor.
Has the president, I've sort of heard the president at the opening of Parliament suggesting something about a basic income grant. What has he said? I mean, is there hope for you in terms of wanting to pressurize or petition government to go the line of the universal basic income grant?
Well, that's our aim, is to pressurize government to put its mouth where, or its practice where that mouth is, because before the elections, the president said that. If you remember, in February, he also said that. But then we want them to put it into practice. And the previous minister of DSD, Honorable Zulu, then was busy with this issue of the basic income grant. And therefore, we would like to follow it up, pressure government, and be part of civil society in making sure that this is implemented or is in the pipeline, even if there's a policy initiative or whatever. But there's some movement in this, during this time.
How would this change the lives of the people you've mentioned?
Well, what is happening is, Ashraf, as a church, we went to Otjivero in Namibia, where there was a pilot project on the basic income grant. And those people, it changed their lives. Firstly, it gave them self-dignity, that they belong somewhere. Because when you are poor, that's not your character trait. That's the economic condition. The second issue was that those people, the little that they got, they planted it within that local community. So there was local community development. And thirdly, it improved their lives because children were, education improved and clinics, health services improved. So it improved people's lives. So we have seen it internationally that it works.
Okay, it works, right. Do you have any other thoughts in terms of the role between civil society and business and government to try and uplift the lives of the thousands, if not millions of people who are really struggling?
Well, I think the first thing is that as churches, as you know, we are on the grassroots. And as civil society, we are part of civil society because the issue of basic income cannot be done by one person. The third issue is that business is investing into our country, and therefore they have got to look into issues of social justice where they are, because South Africa is unequal. I mean, if you look at Trenton and look at Alexandra, they are chalk and cheese, and yet they are in the same area. So businesses should be making sure that they improve their businesses by implementing, by assisting us in implementing this basic income, so that there can be reduction in poverty, maybe reduction in crime also, which I believe there might be, and also, the improvement even in the environment where businesses operate here.
Okay, that's where we can leave it. Appreciate your time, Reverend Dr. Bukelwa Hans. Lots to consider around the universal basic income grant. So let's end with this. I don't expect us to have any medals tonight. Only people think there's no finalists tonight. That's what I understand. But let's just cast our mind back to the national anthem that was played yesterday. It's always a thrill when the South African flags come out and when the national anthem is performed in another country. And no matter what you may think and say about many of the issues in the country, those things are a rallying call to come together for, South Africa, our land. And when you get a person like Tatiana Smith, and the reality is different people stand to attention differently. Some people are loud, they sing it out loud. Others just, a hand on their heart. Others say nothing. Others mumble a few words. Then you have Tatiana Smith, who has eyes closed as she very gently repeated the words of the national anthem throughout, but eyes closed throughout. So there's a case of her silence in many ways was loud and clear. She's made in South Africa. She's made it in South Africa. She's also made it around the world. It's 6 o'clock. Let's get the news now with Greg Coase.
Thank you again, Ashraf. In this news update, principal suspended at Pretoria High School for Girls and deadline for Cape Town homeless to leave. Good evening. The Gauteng Education MEC Matomi Chilwane has suspended the principal of Pretoria High School for Girls. The suspension is for 3 months, during which the department will probe allegations of racism at the school. The MEC also says that 8 of the 12 learners suspended for alleged racist comments on a whites-only WhatsApp group were prefects who've since been removed from the